So, how are we, Dave? Good to go. Kia ora, welcome everybody to our council meeting for August. Councillor Tamaki, can I ask you to open with the karakia, please?
Morena te whare he karakia mo te ata. Kia pai tōra. Ka taka te hau ki te whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ki uta. Kia mā taratara ki tai. Kia hiakana te tākura he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauhua. Amihi.
We have one apology this morning, and that is from Councillor Willison. I'd like to move that his apology be accepted. Second, Councillor Christensen, all in favour? Carried. There's no late items. Is any agenda items today which any councillor has to declare a conflict of interest or feel they should declare a conflict of interest? If not, moving on to the confirmation of minutes dated 18th July 2023. Do I have a move on a second of those, please? Move Councillor Prendergast, second Councillor Johnson. Any matters arising from those minutes? Yes, Councillor. There somewhere. Okay, so there was a correction which has been noted. Thank you. Moving on to the receipt of minutes of the community board dated 6th of August. So move on a second for those. Moved Councillor Hughes, second Councillor Dow, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. At this stage, we're meant to have a public forum, so we might have to slot that in somewhere at some point when they turn up. Just move on to my verbal report. Following on from our council meeting last month, on the 19th, held interviews. I know it's outside of what we do here in terms of corpus with the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs again. And then that evening attended the annual Farmers Winter Evening. Again, a big thank you to the team of Bailey Ingham for organising that. It was a really good turnout. I left just before I was meant to give my welcome speech because for the 5th time in 5 years, a car decided to crash outside our road gate and take down the power lines. So got back to see what damage was done there. On the 20th was the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs Hui, followed by a catch-up that afternoon with Calvi Coffin, who has been my TUI representative this year. Attended the Matariki Breakfast Central Kids Daycare on the morning of the 21st. July the 25th until the 29th, I attended the LGNZ AGM National Conference and hosted the Mayor's Task Force Breakfast. I attended via Zoom the first Future for Local Government Advisory Group Hui on the 3rd of August, which those who are unaware, I'm on that for the next couple of months, following on from the recommendations on the Future for Local Government report. Attended Mayoral Forum in Thames on the 7th, elected members workshop on the 8th. I listened to the concerns of a ratepayer on the 9th. Then I went down to Ideal Services and had lunch with them that same day, which is really cool. And I got a little bracelet from them saying our friend Max, which is quite cool. Had a great day down there. And then we went out to, myself and Councillor Tamaki went out to Kawhia to have a hui concerning access to the boat parking area, boat ramp. So hopefully over the next couple of months, we can come to some resolution there. I'd like to move that my update be received. Seconded Councillor Williams, all in favour? Any matters arising from that? Cool. Thank you. Moving on to the public forum, are they ready, Dave? No, not yet. It's been unfortunate. Moving on to item, I get my run sheet right here. Item 72. We've changed the orders around a bit, everyone. So, Nikki, you're doing a presentation on behalf of the Support House. Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, councillors. This report for the Ōtorohanga Support House Whare Āwhina shows a full year's activities as per the service level agreement with the Ōtorohanga District Council and against Support House's aim to bring about the improved health and welfare of the Ōtorohanga community. In the May 2023 meeting, Council agreed to a 3-year lease with Support House for the exclusive use of 88 and 120 Maniapoto Street from the 1st of July 2023 to the 30th of June 2026, with a 2-year extension to be given at the landlord's discretion. Council further agreed to fund the additional costs of $17,000 a year associated with the lease of 88 Maniapoto Street for a period of 3 years, making their total annual grant from Council $36,000. I'm happy to take the report as read unless there are any questions.
Any questions, councillors? Yeah, Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, thank you, Nikki. Just a couple of quick ones. I noticed there that the shortages of food stocks with a problem. Is that still an ongoing problem with the Support House?
Sorry, can you clarify? Is it a question about the food stocks or the storage?
Yeah,
of the
no,
food?
there's a sentence here that says shortages of food stocks is available to the food bank. Is that still an issue for you? Are you still struggling to get sufficient?
I am not sure of the current situation, but that's certainly something that I can follow up for you and get back to you. Yeah.
The only other question I had then was around the white ribbon and the eliminating violence comments that were made there. Is that strategy conducted in liaison with the police, or is that something that's outside of the? Do you do that in conjunction with the police, or?
Again, I'm not privy to that information, but that's certainly something I can follow up and get back to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions, councillors? No, we have a resolution that the Ōtorohanga District Council received the report, Ōtorohanga Support House Whare Āwhina 6-month report from 1 January 2023 to 30th June 2023 from Nikki Daly. I'd like to move that. Seconded, Councillor Jeffries. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 73. Just before we do, I haven't actually acknowledged that Graham Bunn is our acting chief executive this morning for his gets glory for about 15 minutes to half an hour. So take note of our acting CE. Thank you, Graham, for stepping in.
Yeah.
No, Tanya should be here soon. Moving on to item 73. Nikki, back to you.
This report shows the full year's activities against Thrive Trust's aim to empower the youth rangatahi of Ōtorohanga and surrounding districts to achieve their potential by reinforcing positive mindsets, fostering well-being, enabling them to thrive and to contribute to the welfare of our local community in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Council committed $30,000 per annum across the first 3 years of the 2021-2024 long-term plan as an operational grant to Thrive Ōtorohanga. As a note, this report is unusual as it covers a short 3-month period rather than the usual 6 months due to Thrive's previous council report, which was mistakenly written to cover a 9-month period. Submitting this shorter report allows us as staff to realign Thrive alongside our other community service providers and their synchronized 6-month reports. A highlighted detail in Thrive's 3-month report is Thrive's True North program, which mentors years 7 to 10 students and assists them to transition from our coastal schools to secondary schools and hostel life. This True North program has recently grown and now includes Hauturu, Kinohaku and Taharua schools, who have joined alongside other members of the program, Kawhia School and Ōtorohanga College. I'm happy to take this report as read unless councillors have any questions.
Cool, thanks, Nikki. It's good to see those primary schools back on board again. And obviously with the new mentor there with Thrive, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And no doubt, Peter Coventry will be back sometime in the coming months, looking for a further 3-year extension of the funding from the council. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Prendergast.
Through you, Worship, great report, Nikki. It's really exciting to see, what has been done for the, running the home and, particularly that the transition to college and then of course the transition from college. Do you get outside funding? Like, is that something that you have there to support the program as well, to extend it at all, or is it just to be outside funded?
To answer that, they get some funding from Trust Waikato, and there has been some MSD funding in the past. I'm not sure what other student funding does.
Just such a fabulous opportunity for young ones. Do you have any stats at all on those that don't take the opportunity up, or do they all take it up?
Through you, Your Worship. That's a really great question, Councillor. That's something I can follow up for sure. Yeah.
Just be interested.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Councillor, what was the question?
Are there any stats on those students that don't take the opportunity up? So, what percentage of students are taking these opportunities?
Yeah, actually, I'll let Nikki follow up with that. I'm sure if there was historically or not. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think there is at the moment, but I'm not sure if there was historically.
Thank you.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Worship. Nikki, is a good report. Thank you. That's just on clause 4.2, where we talk about the mentoring program. It's probably a question you're not able to answer, but I'll ask it anyway. What's the current situation with the hostel? Do we know what the numbers are and what's actually happening with the hostel in terms of its future? And are we able to get an update on that at some stage?
Through you, Your Worship, that sort of information would need to request from the college, not so much from Thrive. So two different organisations, I guess, working there, but we can see what we can find out. Through you, Your Worship.
Councillor Tamaki.
Through you, Your Worship. Does it actually say who Bradley Hamilton is a new staff member, is a new mentor? Am I correct?
Did say somewhere.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, Councillor. We have Bradley Hamilton has been appointed to the role, taking over from Jackson Willison.
So I probably have, I would like to know if he would be willing to come and talk to us. Just because when you're looking at the catchment of kids that are coming in to the college and he's connecting with them, most of them are Māori kids. Not saying that he's not Māori, but it's very easy to be able to put stuff on paper, but actually how. And not for us, not for me to scrutinise them, but just to be able to meet them so that if I'm out and about, would be nice to.
Sure, that can be arranged. Councillor Prendergast, you have another question?
Sorry.
Tut tut, only one warning, then you're out. Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions, thank you, Nikki. Yeah, another good report. The resolution is that the Ōtorohanga District Council received the report, Thrive Ōtorohanga Youth Trust 3-month report from 1 April to 30 June 23 from Nikki Daly, Manager of Community Development and Wellbeing. Do I have the move for a second? Move Councillor Jeffries, second Councillor Prendergast. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Nikki. Brian, welcome. Welcome to you and your team. We'll move back to the public forum. So we have the opportunity now for you to put to us, obviously, your public forum petition or whatever it may be and what form it takes. Obviously, we can ask questions, but there's no decisions made in this forum itself. There's something we come back to later after the meeting. But welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks, I might just provide my last one.
Neither is mine, so it's okay.
If we can just get you to talk into this,
All right,
that way they can hear you and also those that are online. Thank you.
okay. Thanks very much. My name is Brian Pitts-Brown. I'm just going to introduce you how this petition was formed. When the second vaping shop opened up, my wife plus other concerned citizens expressed great concern at the additional vaping shop. So about 2 days later, at a function Ōtorohanga District Council was holding to promote their 10-year plan, I think it was, I spoke to Mayor Max about the concerns, and Max said to me, look, if you can get a petition and a delegation to present to the council, we will consider it and have a better understanding of the community's feelings. So primarily, that's what we have gone ahead and done. He said, so in bring this petition through today, initially, I'd like you to understand that we're aware that vaping was made available to people to assist in their endeavours to curb their smoking addiction. So we understand the need for vaping. And so there we are, that is it. And then before I go any further, I'd like to just show our apologies. I know Aileen Berrigan, who wrote a very good article in the paper the other day regarding the vaping and the damage to the community, and others who have not been able to make it for one reason or another. And I understand today that Councillor Katrina Christian has also got a report here regarding vaping. So without any further ado, I'm going to present to you the petitions we have here. This is just over 200, taken not from the whole council, but from those that we've been able to contact. So who would like to present these to? I have thank you. Also, I have and I also gather that Councillor Katrina also has on Facebook some over 500. So it is that without us having gone to great in-depth detail into the community, it's a fairly substantial number. So if the council's approval, I would just ask Mrs. Jane Clapcott, who's going to give you further comments on this, on the medical damage that Draper can do if it's let out of control. But before I go to that, I'm just going to list the concerns that we have in the community. First of all, at the present time, the minimum age of accepting vaping products is 18 years of age. This isn't being policed. Many other small retailers are also selling vaping products. So again, it's a wide range. Flavoured vaping products are now selling to children. Parents are accepting children's vaping. So those are two of the main facts I've got. So really, without me having any more to say, I'm just going to ask, if your approval, I'd ask Mrs. Jane Clapcott if she would just highlight some of the medical damages that vaping is causing in the community. Thanks, Ryan.
Good morning. This is basically information that is freely available for anybody to read and anybody to get hold of. Vapes were hailed as a miracle cure the smokers. But now schools are struggling to cope with children now addicted to using vapes. As children have to duck out of school to vape, waking up at night to vape. Children as young as 9 years old in hospital with lung damage. And latest figures in England, in the past year, 15 cases of under 9-year-olds with injuries, bleeding and collapsed lungs as a result of vaping. Professor Andrew Bush at the Royal Brompton Hospital says vaping is more dangerous than smoking for teenagers. It's addictive, and it's very addictive. And with smoking, children will try it, teenagers will try it. I'm sure most of us in the room probably at some time have tried it, and it makes you sick and it makes you feel horrible and you give up. But vaping is not like that. Dr. Gareth Nye at Chester Medical School says chemicals within vapes can initiate powerful autoimmune reaction, which in the lungs causing damage. Vapes contain water vapor, flavoring, nicotine, propylene glycol, and other chemicals. And when these are heated during the process of powering the vapes, other toxic chemicals are formed. Heating can form formaldehyde and benzene found in car exhausts, and we know what that does. Other research has identified a range of heavy metals in vapes, including nickel, tin, lead, cadmium, and other toxic metals. This information is freely available for all of us. Why do we have to ignore it until we have a problem in the health sector when we could put a stop to it now? Vapes should, in my opinion, be by prescription only for smokers who wish to stop smoking. And then I've just got a very short list of what vaping can cause and has caused. Asthma, which we have a lot of in New Zealand, lung scarring, addiction, which is more than with smoking, and then addiction of vaping can lead to smoking. Secondhand exposure, so you and I walking down the street, explosions from the batteries, and landfill. And for young people, mental and behaviour problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like just a final conclusion to our presentation of this petition and urge the Ōtorohanga District Council to associate and align themselves with other district councils within the New Zealand community. This has been suggested by Councillor Katrina Lukaduvis to set a remit to government to change the legislation to allow district councils to have control over the legislation and present the legislation within their councils to meet the well-being and the desires of our local community. So that's the final, that was which we just wished that would take on board, if that can be the remit to go to central government to change the legislation to allow your councils to make the law, control the laws to meet the needs of your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian, and thanks for the team for turning up. Look, hopefully this petition, when it does get sent off to Wellington, adds some weight behind all the other petitions around the country that are taking place and the discussion that's going on. We talk about unintended consequences, and vaping is one of those situations where we thought we're doing the country, not we per se. When we thought the country is in a better place through having vaping as opposed to smoking, we find that the consequence is far more reaching than what it was intended. Look, I think we all share the same sentiment, and we are somewhat hamstrung by the inability to do anything as a council at this point. And you're right, we're still 12 months away from a remit, but it's something we can consider at the next LGNZ conference, or AGM, I should say, that remit is put forth. If no one else is doing it, on behalf of Ōtorohanga District Council, we get the support to change legislation around vaping. It's done at the AGM each year, Brian, and that there just took place last month. So probably 11 months behind or ahead, whichever way you want to look at it. But thank you for the petition, and hopefully we can make some progress on this.
Thank you very much, Council, for listening to us.
Before you do leave, is there any questions from councillors before we go? No. Look, thank you very much for turning up this morning. You can go home and get yourselves warm again now. Right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 75, capital projects. Robbie.
Morning, Your Worship, councillors. The capital projects report provides an update on the completion of projects in 22-23 and update for projects to end of July 2023. There's quite a bit covered by the report, but I'll take this read and happy to hand over any questions.
Thank you, Robbie. Open up to questions, councillors. Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, thanks. Very full report. Thanks very much. Very informative. Can I just refer you to clause 4.7? I just wondered, the stakeholder meeting that was convened at the hall, when did that happen? And were community board members aware of that and invited to that meeting? And if not, why not?
Yes, I'd need to confirm, but my understanding is yes, the community board were advised and invited.
Okay, thank you. And as far as the stormwater and the seawall consent applications and renewals, I assume that there's a report coming to the Carter Community Board on those.
Yes, there is.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Yes, I'm just looking at the non-capital projects on page 121. Just with regards to the Ōtorohanga Security Patrol. Just wondering, what's the time frame on awarding a tender, and will there be any interruption to the security patrol until that's finalised?
The current dates for release to the market is the end of October. So we have to have engagement under that contract prior to Christmas. The existing contracts being extended to the end of January, at which time still working through that extension process of this.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions?
Right one.
Yes, Councillor Dow.
Is there any chance that, as a business, we could actually talk to the contractors, like before they cut our sewage and cut our engineers? I knew I should have showed them that we had a pipe there because they reckoned I wasn't on council records and they stuck a hole through the bloody thing. And where they cut our internet, they couldn't have marked it out more perfect to dig where the internet was. So I don't know whether maybe before they start digging, whether we can go along and show them. Like they had no idea that our trade waste pipe was even there. That was only Rob Vanderbilt days, so it wasn't that long ago.
No, they have actually taken responsibility for that. The pipe was shown on the before you dig application and provided to them. Council.
I didn't tell them they didn't do that.
No, yeah, obviously.
They reckon it was in the road. I said, there's nothing in the road.
No, the information was provided to the contractor.
Oh, okay.
And the personnel on site have, unfortunately,
That's
not
really-
read it correctly. Yeah.
Because I just came back from being away and they were there, digging. I thought it's too late by then. They were looking at the internet cable then for the digger through it. So I mean, could have easily averted a hell of a lot of hassles. Well, by just showing them where it was, but
Yeah, I guess there should have been a letter drop in that instance.
yeah, but it just
Not
had like a map of the thing and just a little highlight, the letter didn't really mean much. Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose just to answer, I mean, I don't know if every contractor knows to talk to every business to ask whether they've got infrastructure sitting in the road, so
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're saying, Councillor. It's just
Yeah, they did.
one of those.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, it's something that perhaps would have been local knowledge or a bit of, because we don't know where we put it, And I was really going to stop and tell them that, oh no, they'll be right. It was pretty recent. They'll have the map. Anyway.
Unfortunately, they did have a map. Yeah, still got it.
Oh, that's right. Oh, anyway, next time I'll just stop. Thank you.
I have a question. So I attended the Ngātai o Kāwhia Hui on Saturday, and they had a very fired up agenda. One of those items on the agenda was the sewage into the front bit at the front of the park. That sewage has been leaking into that bit of the moana. So we had regional district council there, we had lots of different fisheries people there, all sorts. The mana whenua and the whānau have a very clear pathway of what they are to do. And so I suppose this is me coming back here and saying they will be taking photos, they will be at certain times and sending them through into regional district council. To whether or not to hold us accountable, whoever accountable, I don't know. But they were real fired up. So I don't know if it's an issue for you, Mark, to make comms with them or the comms team, or yeah, was a really interesting hui. We had me and Paul Cassidy probably had the firing line for about an hour. So I don't know if it was they wanted Waitomo District Council there too, but they didn't they weren't attended from. They just putting it in the
Sorry, Councillor, I'm lost on what particular issue.
So they believe, or they're saying that sewage at times is leaking into the moana at that front, more in particular at the front bit of the park, where there's a couple of pipes, and as you go along coming into Kāwhia, there's some other little pipes that run out. Whether or not it is, I wouldn't have the faintest idea. Lots of them are adamant it is. So Regional District Council has kind of guided them to get down, take photos, do stuff, and get it into Regional District Council. Yeah. Hey, so
Go.
Yeah.
Go for it, Mark.
Do you, Your Worship, maybe we could have a kōrero about this afterwards in terms of a way forward with communication.
Yeah, I'd just like to make one correction, Mr. Councillor Jeffries. I think in reference to that meeting we held, the hall, it wasn't like pretty sure it wasn't open to the community board. It was a purely operational meeting to discuss how the archaeological sites were going to be treated. So, yeah, I don't think it was extended to the full thing, which I don't think would normally be at that level, but if there's an interest for that, it's something we look at in the future. But it was all about getting the contractors, the archaeologists that might have been on site to discuss how we're going to deal with any fines as part of the resource consent. So it was pure operation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thanks, Mark. It's just that there has been a concern for some time that that there are things happening inside the community at times that are not being communicated, and that's possibly an example of that. The other thing that Councillor Tamaki was just talking about was it's disappointing to hear that they had a hui there, and I certainly wasn't aware that it was on, and I doubt whether the community board members were aware of it as well. Had we known, I would have made an effort to be there, and I'm sure I could have given you some support and Cassidy some support on those issues. It's just, yeah, there's just a little bit of a frustration there that there are at times things happening inside the community that the community board don't know about. And I just wanted to make that point. That's all.
I'll just, thank you, councillor. I'll just probably counter that staff have actually got to undertake operational activities without consulting with the community on everything they do as well. So at times you will see staff working and they haven't consulted. That's because they're just going about their business as everyday work. I mean, it's noted because it's in a small community, but if it's happening out there in the district wide, nobody actually passes any comment because you just see it as being purely operational. So when it comes down to issues around mana whenua, I understand that there needs to be consultation there, or if there's major disruption in a community, I get that as well. But staff should be able to go about their daily activities without having to consult every aspect of what they're doing. Otherwise, we get nowhere.
So I don't have an issue with what you're saying, Your Worship. All I'm saying is that there are times where it appears that the two roles between governance and operations get a bit blurred. And I think there are occasions where perhaps the governance side of things could be more involved. That's all.
Through Your Worship, if I could just clarify, that wasn't our meeting to invite people to. It was the RMC meeting that Councillor Tamaki and Cassidy attended. And so I think we've got to be a bit careful. I think that the comms to my team is invite everyone to our hui that we're having, that we own, that we're organising, because we've had that feedback in the past that maybe we haven't sent the invite out to you all to let you know that something's on. So I certainly take that on board. But I think, I mean, I was with Ōkapu, Te Wehe, Ngāti Te Wehe on Saturday. Jamie and I were with them, the other Jamie, and it wouldn't have been my meeting to invite everyone to either. So I think I just sort of want to clarify that.
Ōtorohanga, it wasn't a widely, it was from their point of view rather than ours. So just to clarify that.
Thanks, Robbie. Also like the percentage complete and budget utilised. I didn't see anywhere the budget was over 100%, so that's cool. So, thank you. Look, thanks again for the report. So unless there's any further questions, we have the resolution that the Ōtorohanga District Council received a report titled Capital Projects Report for the month ending 31st July 2023 from Robbie Whiteman, Manager Projects. Moved Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Hughes, all in favour? Carried. Thanks, Robbie. Right, back to my realigned order. From 67 councillors, which is
Page 26.
okay. Concept plan implementation. Ross.
Thank you, Your Worship. Morena councillors. This report stems from a desire to have the most effective and efficient arrangement in place to support the implementation of our concept plans. Obviously, our focus at the moment is the Ōtorohanga Town Concept Plan implementation. So council has set the overall program budget. Council has set the priorities in terms of which projects are to be done when. What is not clear in council's delegation register is the detail around the delegation that the chief executive have and staff have in relation to these individual projects, because you may recall that part of the work for each of the projects was to scope the project, and as part of that, we would establish the budget. So the idea for this report, or behind this report, is rather than having to come back to council each time that work is done, that there's an overall delegation provided to the chief executive to enable that work to be done. If there are then decisions to be made as part of each project process, and that would include going out and engaging with the community or stakeholders in a formal way, we will be coming back on a project by project basis to get that those approvals or that sign off. So happy to take any questions, Your Worship.
Thank you, Ross. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, just with regard to page 27 at the top on 4.1, just the last sentence says additional resourcing. The program is excuse me, is ambitious, but additional resourcing within the program budget has been taken on to support its delivery. What is that additional resourcing?
Sandra Cave has joined us as a coordinator for supporting the work to deliver the projects that have been prioritised. So she's supporting me. So I have overall, I guess, program delivery. So chief executive is holding me accountable to ensure that the program is delivered in order to provide support to our activity managers. Sandra's been taken on to provide that project management support.
And is that over and above what Becca do for us?
So Becca are doing the development of the Kawhia, Aotea, Ōpirau and rural concept plans. Sandra is helping us with the implementation of the Ōtorohanga Town Concept Plan. Yep. So it's a fixed term, 2 year. So that is the duration of the funding commitment that council has made.
It's a full-time role for.
It's a part-time role, 20 hours a week.
Okay.
So as we work through these projects and we need to come back to council, you will get to see and hear from Sandra, and obviously the Ōtorohanga Community Board will be reporting directly through to the board on the projects on a basis.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, councillor. Any further questions, councillors? So everybody's happy with the delegated authority to chief executive? Just making sure everybody's happy. Okay, so we have a recommendation here that the Ōtorohanga District Council delegate authority to the chief executive to implement the Ōtorohanga Town, Kawhia, Aotea, Ōpirau and Ōtorohanga Rural Concept Plans in accordance with the priorities within program budget of $2.1 million set by council. Councillor Jeffrey, second Councillor Johnson, all in favour? Hence carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. Good. Hamilton Waikato Tourism, Nicola. Welcome. Thank you. Oh, God. What heap number on that? Over to you guys. Go, Nikki.
Thank you, Your Worship, councillors. This report shows 12 months of activity and results from Hamilton Waikato Tourism at both the district and regional level against tourism activities and their performance targets. Hamilton Waikato Tourism is the region's regional tourism organisation whose role is to generate competitive economic benefit through visitor sector strategies focused on increasing visitor length of stay and spend. Ōtorohanga District Council funded Hamilton Waikato Tourism $67,796 for the 2022-2023 year. And highlights, which Nicola will expand on in her presentation. The end of year report shows that domestic visitation contributed 16.7 million per annum to the Ōtorohanga district, and which is an increase of 10.5% on May 22. And international visitation contributed 3.1 million per annum, an increase of a whopping 623.4% from May 2022. Also a highlight is the Australian Broadcast Travel Guides filmed an episode in New Zealand in January 23. This episode featured a number of Waikato attractions, including our Kawhia Hot Water Beach. This episode aired on 24th of May 23 to over 500,000 viewers and was number 7 in the top 100 shows for Wednesday in Australia. I'm happy to take the report as read if there's any questions.
Cool. Thanks, Nikki. I'm disappointed in myself here. I put down some notes, but never saved any of them. But I do remember one part. It was on page 46 of the report. The international visitors spend by region of origin in Ōtorohanga, and Australia is by far and above in internationals. I'm surprised that two things. A, China's not on there. It's rest of Asia is in there. And then I asked the question, if we're talking about the Kiwi House and the growth of it, where is the advertising or the support for us to get the word out to the Chinese people to ensure that those numbers are up? Because I would have expected them going on the other figures that China would have been at the forefront of their visiting. Maybe some thoughts on that, please.
Well, kia ora. To start, tēnā koutou katoa, ko Nicola Greenwell, tuku ingoa. I feel like you've done my job for me, so thank you. I do have some slides to go through, but touching those questions first, Mayor Max, thank you. Chinese didn't start coming back to New Zealand until September, so they'll start filtering through into the data now as we come through. So we'll start to see that activation. We're seeing a lot more Chinese visitors around the country already. So they were a little bit slightly slower to come back to visiting us, because they went out of China rather than we went out from it. Look, before I even start really and going through some of those questions, I just wanted to acknowledge today is our first day officially is post-COVID. Isolation, 7 days isolation was cancelled as of yesterday, so that's hallelujah and celebrate that. And mask wearing, of course, is no longer compulsory. So it does feel like today is the start of another era, and tourism and hospitality and events, we'll talk through this, but absolutely showing return and coming back in alive. And it feels even more so today. So we're quietly celebrating that in our sectors today. So if that's okay, I've got a presentation here. I don't think that's in your pack, is it? So we'll work through that with some updated figures, and if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you for acknowledging the first day of being COVID-free New Zealand. Yeah, it's significant.
It's
So
really important.
that means we can go to the doctors now and the physio and we don't have to wear masks.
Correct. Yeah, if you're coughing and spluttering, you might still want to wear a mask, just saying, but officially those orders are now passed. So as Nikki has introduced, this is the 12-month report to the financial year ending 30th of June. Some of the data that you've got in your pack is, we're not moving forward, is to May, because that's when the data was available to at the time that I submitted the report. So I'm going to give some verbal updates of those to June. I've broken the technology already. Let's get started.
Okay, so this data up here, I've got some slight updates. So to June for the visitor spend, this is regional data up here. So the 750 becomes 751 with June 2023 coming on the data and May 2023 going off. So that's 18% more than last year and 17% up on 2019, which is kind of the benchmark of pre-COVID. And that's 6.4% market share of all New Zealand spend in New Zealand. So that's the domestic spend at the top there. Now, just a reminder that these figures look different to what you used to see because these are tourism electronic card transactions only. Remember in the past, there used to be make an estimate for cash and online payment. Through COVID, they stopped doing that. I say they, MB and Stats NZ. So we've been using electronic card transactions only. So while it looks lower, it still gives a good trend and a good benchmark. The old data set is going to come back for the next report, so you'll see that those numbers change.
So Nicola, will we see this purely as a trend then as opposed to real true indication of what the figures are?
Correct. There will be more money spent in your region in doing things, and in our region, it might be prepayments online, so people pay for a ticket before they go do an activity. That doesn't get captured as an electronic card transaction. So it's, data's an interestingly based. I think that's probably a whole nother meeting and session, but the trends are showing the growth there of the 18% growth year on year. The international there moves to 105 million, which is yes, 225% more. Remembering this is the regional data, and 12% up on 2019. So that's the really important piece, that it is still up on the pre-COVID visitation levels. And that's 3.2% market share. The commercial guest nights there in the purple box, that's now 1.3, in the yellow box, sorry, stays at 1.3 million commercial guest nights, with an overall occupancy rate of 57% for our region, while the national occupancy rate is 53%. So we're slightly punching above our weight there. We're really pleased about that. Business events there, it's March, they're up there on your screen in the blue, but we have now just had the data released for June. That's released quarterly, so it does take a little bit longer for it to come through. So the region hosted just on 800 events with 144,000 delegate days. So it's 9.7% market share and 8.6% market share of delegates. The black box on the right, hidden a little bit there, but that's the international visitors into the country. That is to May, and that's the data that is available at the moment as well. June's data was due out last night, but we haven't seen it land in the inbox yet. So that's showing there a return of visitation of 2.1 million visitors for the 12 months. Pre-COVID there, I've put there, we were heading just over that 3 million. So remembering that's 12 months, so September was really when the borders opened. And then our Chinese visitors were a little bit later than that, sorry. So it's not a full 12 months of open borders yet. So we'll start to see that start to pick up a little bit more now.
Sorry, just clarification on that again then. So you're saying that the visitor numbers are up on pre-COVID and with the absence of the Chinese?
Yeah, we're coming back really, very strong as a country in this region.
In terms of the percentage of airlines coming into the country?
Oh, well, we'll touch on that.
Oh, good, thank you.
Jeez, Max.
Through you, just a question. So I see the US, the United States visitors. Is that, you know, if that's up quite a bit on previous? Well, see for the previous year, because the reason I say that is I had a conversation with a bus driver at the back here earlier this year who said, this is anecdotally, that the American visitors are way up because they're not going to Europe due to the Ukraine war.
So we are seeing the US market is
higher at the moment, as a percentage of market, and that could also be because the Chinese have not started returning.
Okay.
Might see a little bit of rebalance in that as we move into this year.
Yeah, his reckoning was, or the feedback he'd been getting from the people the American visitors he was taking around was that they don't want to go to Europe because they feel it's unsafe and it's better to come down
Look,
to
it'd be-
Central of this.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that will be an impact for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah. And certainly over the last couple of months, weeks with FIFA, we've been hearing massive numbers of US visitors through the region, through the country. Yeah. Get that right now, yeah. So again, these graphs are for you, for Ōtorohanga district. And I have got the updated numbers, but they're very, very similar. This is to May up here. Commercial accommodation is on your left. This screen is. And so it's moved just to 42.5%, another 0.5% occupancy. And guest nights for the year ending June are 89,000, almost 90,000 guest nights. So that's certainly seeing improvement. So this time last year, you had an occupancy rate of only 32%. So while the 42 is lower than the national average of 53, it is certainly a really great improvement on last year. Again, electronic card transactions, probably not say visitor spend, but card transactions to June, really similar again at 16.5 million with domestic, an increase of 10%, 10.4%. And the international visitors was 3.2. So while that's an increase of, yes, 622% on last year, it's pretty much similar to on a par with the 2019 pre-COVID levels for international spend.
Sorry, excuse me, just a question on that, the occupancy rate, is that, excuse me, it seems pretty low, but, have we got a lot of, have we got oversupply of accommodation?
So that's commercial accommodation only. That doesn't account for your peer-to-peer Airbnbs, which is in your report further down on, I'm not sure what page it is in your document. And the visitor stats, you've got 53 properties listed on Airbnb, achieving 65% occupancy rate. So they're probably a little bit more popular. Does that help? I've also got in there, we've got a new data tool around commercial accommodation that tells us how many you've got. Somewhere in here, I had that, I thought. So you've got 16 properties producing 267 stay units in Ōtorohanga. Yeah, so it's a new tool that we've had developed here.
Just trying to count where the 16 are. Nikki, can you just tell me a minute?
Or
Just strikes.
I haven't printed the list here. I'll have to have a look at the data and then you can see
Thank
through
you.
to Nadia if that helps. Yeah, and that's pure data scraping from online portals. I'm not sure if you've seen this. I hope you have, maybe. We've collaborated with Venture Taranaki to create the Wakatutu Taranaki Way. It's a journey, it's a map that highlights the western side of our region. So it's around trying to bring visitors from north to south and south to north. But I think the traffic is more north to south. Through that more the western part, get them off the highway and through the western part of our region. So Kawhia and Ōtorohanga are definitely featured on the map and some tips on what to see and do on the back. Now that's on our website. It was launched in January. Late November. January was the TV program. And it's already been picked up by several media. It's been in campaigns that we've done collaboratively with Taranaki and featured at Auckland International Airport. So starting to get some really good traction on that piece of work. This was in your report, so hopefully you've gone and had a little look since you've had your report. With the central government funding that all RTOs received, we've undertaken a lot of different projects that we wouldn't normally have been able to do, including the Taranaki Way that I've just talked about. We're also doing these online digital experiences, one in each of our districts, to showcase what there is to do in our district. So Ōtorohanga was first, and we've developed this online tool, online experience with the Sir Edmund Hillary Walk. And thanks to Nadia and the team, it was looking beautiful on the day. To tip off, the filming was coming in.
So 26 interactive spots along the way as you journey through the walk that you can click on and read more and listen to some of the recordings. And it really just gives an opportunity for that walk to be shown and experienced offshore, so that then it can help with while we're going to New Zealand. We've seen this thing, let's go and visit. So we'll be doing one of these in each district, but yours was first. So thank you for doing that with us. So since this has been on our website since January, it's already generated 22,000 views through Google Street View and Google Maps. It's also on Google Earth, but unfortunately they don't provide us with any stats. So it's going to be more than 22,000 views. It does look pretty amazing. It's quite really nice. So do go and have a look. We've already talked about this one. This was a bit of a coup de grace, really. This was an amazing opportunity for Kāwhia to really be showcased into the Australian market. We were all bound by silence and secret, and then we started seeing some things popping up in local social media that the film crew had been, but we knew nothing, right? So travel guides, Boyer and Kāwhia, you can see the picture there on the right. The episode aired on the 24th of May. I've just got my notes, it's the same as what's on the screen, but over 500,000 viewers is pretty phenomenal for Kāwhia. So we're really proud and pleased of that piece of work and the role that we had within them.
Was that 500,000 viewers? Was that New Zealand viewers or Australian?
Australian.
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 Yeah, okay.
So get ready for the Australian visitors, maybe. Hopefully. Ambassador program. So this program we used to run pre-COVID for Kirikirirai Hamilton. We developed it in conjunction with Queenstown Resort College. And it's about training people who come into contact with their manahuri, be it a barista, be it a shoe sales, be it a taxi driver in the city, be it front of house in a hotel. And it's helping them understand the history of our place, what that monument is on the street, what's that for, what does it mean? If a visitor has half an hour to spare, where would you recommend them to go? Where would you tell them to go for dinner if they said, where should I go for dinner tonight? So it's to create that ambassador people who are good with our guests, with our manahiri, extending manaakitanga. So with the central government funding, we developed more of these, Ōtorohanga and Waitomo together. We've presented and developed 5 more, and leading up to June, we do two workshops were held down here, providing 25 ambassadors being trained. So we'll be running more of those in October and November, but we did use our central government funding to try and get some people through free of charge, so there will be a small fee for that when it comes back in October, November. But it's a great tool, and it does give some really good history on what's in this place, what's my place in there. Central government funding, a lot of the projects that you've read in the report and I've even talked about now have been funded through our central government funding, the COVID recovery funding that they allocated to all regional tourism organisations up and down the country. So it's been a heck of a lot of extra mahi pushed through our offices. And we're really proud of what we've achieved. We do now go back to our normal service level agreement, so there'll be different levels of work that you'll start to see. We're still here and working hard, of course, but we can't take up every opportunity like we have done for the last 2 years. Things like the ambassador program, developing those, that we couldn't have done that without central government funding at all. The Taranaki Way, we could not have done that without central government funding. One of those projects had quite a few zeros. So we go back to what we were normally doing pre-COVID, taking every opportunity we possibly can. Maybe not everything, but we'll certainly look at anything. Other than that, just to say thank you for your ongoing support for the tourism sector in your district and in our region. It has been a bumpy 2.5, 3 years. Whoever knows how long it's been now. It feels like it's been forever. A whole lot more grey hair than I used to have pre. It has been a bumpy road for our sectors, and without the support of our councils and our industry, we couldn't have kept going. So thank you for investing us and in our industry.
Thanks, Nicola. Back to that headline question.
areas.
yeah.
Yep, so we've been working a little bit with Jo as they've been going through the development, but she's been wanting to hold a little bit on a big splash until the development's a little bit further through. So that is coming. Jo's presenting our symposium in November with an update of what's happening with the development. And then hopefully we can start singing a whole lot more about it. I've been out and met with Kawhia Sands Hotel, so supporting some of those new operators as well.
Exciting. Thank you, Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, thank you. Look, that's a very, very good report. Thank you. Just a couple of questions. Clause 4.8, you talk about, that's in our report, sorry. You mentioned that Ōtorohanga had 53 properties listed on Airbnb. Do those Airbnb listings include the western side of the district, Kawhia Aotea, do you know? And other listings, what about other listings for, say, Bukabatch and those? Are they included in that analysis, do you know?
No, that is purely Airbnb.
Airbnb,
Airbnb data.
right,
A lot, what we find with peer-to-peer offerings is that people often list on multiple sites. And so while this is only Airbnb data, they may well be listing on booking.com and other sites as well. But that particular data set is purely Airbnb. And it is for Ōtorohanga district itself, the whole district.
the whole district. So sorry to interrupt. So do those stats actually come from the Airbnb site itself, do they?
Correct.
Right,
Yep.
okay.
So they've got a sneaky little portal back into the data.
No, that's cool, thanks. I had a couple of others here, if you don't mind. Oh, you talk about here, I'll read it to you. It has been fantastic to see the return of our event portfolio to their full scope and capacity, balloons over Waikato, field days and so on. Has there been any interest or suggestion that rerunning the steampunk event?
I've not heard anything from steampunk people.
Right.
So I'm not sure.
Okay.
For the report's sake, I've picked on some fairly major iconic events for the region.
Sure.
But there are certainly lots of community events and local events right throughout the whole region that are really important for vibrancy of place and visitation.
No, I'm aware that there was some issues with that originally, but I think generally it was an event that I think could probably grow if it was pushed and promoted properly. So,
Steampunk has certainly got quite a following, hasn't it?
It has.
And the Thames steampunk has sort of been the pinnacle of the North Island anyway, and then Pomoro at the south. And Thames took a bit of a hiatus as well, so I'm not even sure what's happened with that one. Might be a good gap in the market, maybe.
okay. Just a quick question. What material, I know when visitors arrive at the Auckland airport, do we have much in the way of promotional material and visitor guides and so on for the Waikato region at the airport itself?
Yes,
You do?
we do. Yep, our visitor guide is at the airport.
And is that just printed or digital as well?
It's printed, and then sometimes when we're in campaign, we will have digital slides as well.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So definitely showcase it.
Thanks. I think that was. Well, the only other thing which is a thing for me is to notice that a couple of times in the report that it's all very well having all these people coming into the district, but it's actually creating more litter and waste generation problems. You've only got to see what's sitting on the sides of the roads at the moment. It supports that.
And so we did see that in the resident sentiment. I'm not sure what page it is in the document, but we have been doing resident sentiment surveys the last couple of summers. Essential government funded. And for your residents here in Ōtorohanga, they're quite accepting of domestic visitation, less so of international visitation. And yeah, they're seeing that the negative impact of visitation, number one was more litter, number two, damage to the natural environment. So some of that data and information might be something that informs waste team and rubbish bins in different places, maybe, I'm not sure. But there might be some information in there that can be used for something like that.
Right. It was interesting that, I don't know whether you saw it on the news the other day, but there was a spokesperson for Littleton, I think it was, with the cruise ships coming back in there, and their concern was that 4,500 passengers coming off the cruise liner represents a greater population than what actually lives in Littleton, and the problems that that's creating in terms of things like Ōtorohanga. Yep. The Waikato to Taranaki way, which you mentioned, was that just limited to travel on State Highway 3? And the reason I ask is I just wondered what consideration was given, if any, to and I know it's not a state highway, it's more of an adventure trail really, I guess, but the road between Raglan, Carfia, and then on the way down through Matakopa to Wakina and so on.
So we met the consultants back in the airport and drove in a van on all those back roads.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, good on you.
And then made a little bit of a decision that they're on the map, they're definitely here, but we haven't highlighted them overly, because they're not for everybody to drive, right? So they're there and they're on the map, and I think we do say if you're after a little bit more attention, you can use these, right? But they're there, but they're not highlighted as much. We didn't really see too many motorhomes or people straight off a plane and traveling some of those routes.
And one last quick question, what is wound care?
Oh, that's a conference for nurses who look after wounds. It's quite a sizable conference.
Oh, right, okay. Just wounds.
Wounds. Wound care, it's quite a thing. I spent some time in primary health, and wound care is quite a discipline.
Very good. Oh, well, thank you for that. Appreciate your report. Thank you.
Councillor Dow.
Just, to jump onto your website, we don't even make it on there, so can you get your webman to put Ōtorohanga? Like,
We are on our website.
no, it's not, we're under Waitomo Caves and surrounds,
No,
our destinations.
well, I'll have to have a look at that, but no, there is an Odo piece.
What's righty?
Okay.
And so, yeah,
It's interesting, we're actually just doing a major website refresh right now, and we've had lots of pieces of paper on our desk moving around on how people will navigate through the website and what's the user experience for finding where to go. That's why I know Ōtorohanga is definitely on there. So it might be, I don't know, we'll have a look at it, but and it is just where things are, and do we look at district names, town names, so it's quite a debate on how people navigate through.
Thank you.
I'll go and have a look at it, but we're on it.
Excellent.
Under the destinations, there are on.
destinations.
Yeah, what's not like, I've got it right here. Right, Wave, and surround, then you.
Yeah, but I
Next
mean,
one down.
especially clicking on
The
Ōtorohanga.
next one down. Right, because you're on the mobile.
Yeah.
edition.
Yeah,
There it is.
yeah, most people travel with the phone, don't they? Well, here, I'll show you my phone. So maybe we need to make it phone friendly then.
Phone might be cached, maybe, so it might just need its history. It's definitely here.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors?
I'll move the report, Mr. Chair.
Look, another good report. Thanks, Nikki. Nicola, it'll be good to see. So just going on that, so the stats are kind of new this time around, and we'll just be seeing what the trends are from there going forward. Okay, cool. Okay, we have item 69 here, that the Ōtorohanga District Council received a report, Hamilton Waikato Tourism, full-year report, 1 July 22 to 30 June 23, from Nikki Dealey, Manager of Community Development and Wellbeing. Move Councillor Jeffries, I'll second that. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Excellent. Good seeing you again. Right, councillors, we'll move on to item 70, which is Nikki's going to stay there for the Waikato Regional Council EnviroSchools Program 6-monthly report. And welcome to some special guests, I believe, who are going to take front and centre stage. Come on, team. Page 59. And Michelle, is it?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Michelle Daly, tuku ingoa, no kirikiriroa ahau. Thank you so much for having us here today. I know you've met with my colleague Anna previously, so I'm not going to talk at all today. We've just got our wonderful ambassadors for EnviroSchools who are going to be able to give you a really good feel for the program from Kilkil. We appreciate the funding and the support, and thank you to Nadia and Nikki for their support too. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report shows the full year activities against EnviroSchools' aim to integrate environmental education into the whole of school life. The EnviroSchools program supports and empowers children and young people to plan, design, and implement sustainability actions that are important to them and their communities. It provides relevant life context for learners to connect with their environment and their communities and how to be actively involved in social, cultural, economic, and environmental change. Through the long-term plan, 21 to 31, Council increased the previous budget of 4,000 to 6,000 per annum for the first 3 years of the LTP to enable EnviroSchools to increase the number of Ōtorohanga district schools participating in the program. Currently, 5 Ōtorohanga district schools are participating in the program, 3 as full EnviroSchool members and 2 as Friends of EnviroSchools. The Friends of status is a partial membership that is while they work towards becoming a full member. 234 students have participated across all schools within this 12-month period. I'm happy to take questions on my report. If you have any, before passing to our lovely presenters at QQ School who will be presenting their stories.
Thanks, Nikki. Any questions on Nikki's report, councillors?
Just one, Your Worship, if I may. What is the cost for a school to actually join up on the program, do you know?
The schools don't pay any financial contribution, but they do provide curriculum time and commitment from the board, senior leadership and teachers in terms of hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There's no further questions. We'll hand over to our wonderful presenters. Hey, welcome to you too. Just to give you a heads up in terms of who you're talking to around here. I'm Mayor Max, okay, and these around me are all of our councillors. My chief executive next to me right here, and we've got staff around the outside to ensure that what we say is correct, and so we behave ourselves. So we tend to, but hey, the floor's open to you guys to say everything you want to say within reason. So welcome. My deputy mayor says we don't bite.
My name is Zoe. I'm a counsellor at QQ School and I'm a part of the Enviro team. And I'm really excited to show you some of the things that we've done this year so far. My name's Eden. I'm also a counsellor and I'm also excited to share with you what we've done as an Enviro school so far. These are the EnviroSchool principles that we make sure our school works by constantly. We've got a list of things that we have done this year. So we've done 6 things this year so far, mainly involving the Enviro team. This is Manga Day Out, which is where all the children in our school, they've been put into houses and we went up. We have Māori names for our houses and we went up those mountains and just learnt stories about them and learnt about it for the day, which was really cool. The highlight for me was seeing all the native birds just freely flying around the place with my fruits. Here are some photos of just different houses.
This is the Mongaranga Stream Restoration Project. It has been going on since last year, and groups of about 4 or 5 kids each week, well, not each week, but maybe once or twice a term, have gone down to the Mongaranga stream and have planted native trees to help restore these trees. And the school has also partaken in a lot of projects, like some classes got to camp down by the lake and just do a lot of activities.
So on this day, we had a group of 4 students who went to the Marakai MasterChef Challenge, and that was where students made a meal with plants that were grown in their school garden. So we made gnocchi, a salad, and creamy soda, all the stuff from our garden. And it was really fun just seeing what everyone else would make and making connections with others.
The Native Nursery has been a project that has been going on since 2021, where a group of 2 students planted a bunch of trees, and then we donate them to parents of the school to help grow the population of native trees. So our first batch we gave out was last year in autumn, and we gave some out again last month. There are different trees that are the names of our classes. So there's Kodi, Kehakatea, Totara, Limu, Putakawa, Kowhai, and Puriri. Also, a bit earlier in the year, one class visited a school and gifted them puriri trees because they can't really be grown around here. So gifted them to a school in an area that would be more easy for them to grow.
So we had Anna Cunningham came in and she did a waste audit with us, which was just showing us what's in our landfill and what can be recycled. And we sorted through our stuff and checked each classroom, making sure they put the right stuff in the right place, which was really good when you come in.
At the beginning of the term, we had a week-long Matariki celebration. Kids got to have lots of fun food like fried bread, and then on Friday we had a hangi. They also got to partake in a bunch of activities revolving around the 9 stars, like making stars, clay pots, weaving. On the Friday, they got to come at 5 a.m. and watch them prepare the hangi. And everyone had a really good time.
Yes. Yeah. Lots of food.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you for listening.
Wow. Look, councillors Zoe and Eden, thank you so much for the presentation. That was outstanding. Like, it makes me kind of envious that the school you're going to is way cooler than the school I went to. And I won't say what school that was. I really love the fact that you can teach your parents and the adults around you about the whenua and about the environment. And it's really, really cool to get that bottom-up teaching for us as older people. So really, really cool. And I love what you're doing at QQ School. I think it's outstanding. And I think it's a lesson to all the other schools around us. They aren't just friends of Enviro schools, they become full members of the Enviro schools. So look, big ups to you both for coming here and talking to us, because I'm sure it's not easy, but you'll find the next time when you come back and give a report, it'll be way easier than it was this time. So thank you both for coming here. Any questions of the two councillors?
Just like to say, as a former QQ school student, that makes me proud to see what you've been doing out there, and it's great, and keep it up. It's excellent. Thanks very much.
And I'd like to suggest that you both think of a future in local government politics.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. Yeah, really cool. Any further questions, councillors? Oh, the other thing which we did note was your wonderful pronunciation of your Māori names. So that's cool. There's nothing further, Nikki. That's all good. So look, thank you both for the report. Thanks to Michelle for coming along and supporting. So we have a resolution in front of us, councillors, that the Ōtorohanga District Council received a report, Waikato Regional Council Enviro Schools Program, 1 January 23 to 30th June 23 from Nikki Daly be received. Moved Councillor Hughes, second Councillor Williams, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks again, everyone. While we're on a roll with these wonderful guests that are turning up here today, we'll move on to the Sport Waikato 6-month report, and we'll see if Matthew Cooper do as good a job as the previous presenters.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report shows Sport Waikato's full year of activities against outcomes aligned to their regional strategy for sport and recreation in the Waikato, moving Waikato, which is underpinned by a focus on 3 key areas: our people, building communities, and regional leadership. Sport Waikato receives an annual operational grant of $35,000 to support outcomes in play, active recreation, and sport in the Ōtorohanga district. A further $3,380 per annum is granted as a contribution for the delivery of the Waikato Regional Active Spaces Plan. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have of my report before passing to the speakers from Sport Waikato to present.
Thanks, Nikki. Any questions, councillors? Appears to be none, Nikki. So, hand over. Welcome, Matthew. Welcome, Robbie.
Tēnā koutou katoa, kia ora, Matthew Cooper, toka ingoa. Thanks very much, Council, for the introduction. I was only hoping that Your Worship would give me the same introduction as you did to the previous speakers to put my blood pressure at rest as well. But and hopefully there was chocolate fish as well.
It's okay, Matthew, you're amongst friends.
Well, first of all, thanks on behalf of our Regional Connectivity Coordinator and Robbie Matthews and myself. It is always a pleasure to be here, and it's always a opportunity that we never take for granted to be here at this important opportunity to present. We'll just go through a bit of a real quick refresh, and thanks very much, Nikki, for the introduction as well. A quick refresh in terms of the work, and then I'm going to talk about a little bit of data that's relevant to Ōtorohanga around physical activity, and then Robbie will talk a bit about her future focus as well and some of the things that she's been completing as well. We have a clear strategy in terms of working and moving Waikato, and it's based on those 3 pillars that Nikki spoke about as well just before, around the 3 clear pillars, which we real foundation blocks for us that we can maintain and hold in terms of our strategy. One about growing participation, the second one around building capability, and the third one about relationships and partnerships in the work we do in terms of regional leadership. Fortunately for us, we've managed to get quite a lot of alignment now in terms of Sport New Zealand strategy, which I think is really important. We can talk about that with Ōtorohanga College later on. Also around the role that we have with our RSOs. So a lot of our regional sports organisations are adopting the 3 pillars. and even the work that we're doing alongside council as well in terms of the local Ōtorohanga district plan as well. So there's better alignment in terms of the area of sport and recreation, that we're getting some consistency as well. Just again, our way of working, the way that we work, we're very much focusing on growing physical activity. We're very much focusing on influencing at the right level in terms of the organisations that we can mobilise participation. And then we're also very focused on working on really good quality deliverers in terms of the way the organisation operates now.
So, progress in the last 12 months. So this is in my report. So basically, I'd just like to ask to take the report as read. And if there was any questions from the report, if you want to ask them now, or we can wait till the end when we talk about what's coming up as well. If you can do it.
Carry on, stage Robin.
Yep.
So just going on about data. So I'll just talk briefly, 2 or 3 quick slides around data, council. As well as supporting local projects, which was in the report and is also on our radar going forward that Robbie will talk about. We've also increased our area of insight, and we're able to understand participation rates a lot better now than we have in the past, particularly here, right across the Waikato region, but specifically here in Ōtorohanga. So what this slide tells me is only half of the adults in the community are participating in physical activity at a high enough frequency. So the frequency is based on Active New Zealand data to positively impact their wellbeing, with 1 in 3 significantly. 23, the positive around this is 73% on the right-hand side want to be more active. They really are keen to be more active. So there is a significant opportunity here to grow activity levels among a group opportunities. And that's where I start thinking around some of the really good work that council is doing around infrastructure. We've seen that development and growth in terms of, for example, over the last few years, around the riverbank, and those opportunities to be more active in terms of recreation pursuits as well. For the young people, 60% of our young people, just under 60% of our young people, based on 5 to 17 years of age in the district, are active enough to positively impact their wellbeing. But still, there is a significant number that we want to target in terms of trying to get more young people active here in the district. On the right-hand side, again, 64% of young people have the desire to be more active. So again, I see that as an opportunity for the likes of ourselves, working with council, working with providers. Some of the key barriers, particularly with adults at the moment, is, and the biggest one is finding time. So the biggest issue for a lot of us is around time to be active, knowing that we know the investment's good enough for our health and wellbeing, but where do you find the opportunity and time to be active in busy lives that we all lead? And so that to me is where there's lack of opportunities meeting the needs of community. So what we're hearing, particularly with adults, is they actually want a quick fix. They're finding it very difficult to actually engage and be part of a sporting group for the likes of 3 or 4 months of the year, so a longer period. So we've got to start thinking about how do we revitalise quicker competitions? Do we need to have such longer seasons? All those sort of things are aspects that come through the way that we're thinking around the opportunity for a quick fix, certainly for the adult side. On the young side,
Matthew, can I just ask a question on that, the adult side, because we actually written down a note here prior to that even coming out as a stat, that it's prioritising it. How do we get, because now that you've got that figure there and or that data, it's all very well having that data, but what do you do as Sport Waikato to actually implement the change in people? Because the worst thing we want amongst any of our peers is that it's a physical intervention that means, oh my gosh, I better do something about my health before I actually die. If that happens again, it's going to potentially kill me or disable me in some form. Because that is the key one for us all, isn't it? So where's that conversation go with Sport Waikato now you've got that data?
Well, I mean, me and Max, I think that what it does is it gives us very good information to be talking to our regional sports organisations around the opportunities that I talk about, the barrier being time. It gives us great opportunities to talk to a lot of our councils around the opportunities that we need to play and recreate. So I think the data just really emphasises that if we don't maintain a physically active existence, it will affect our well-being. So that I think will help us when we start having conversations with council around our long-term plan and, you know, when we're thinking about opportunities there. So I think the data, Sport Waikato will be strongly advocating for the importance of movement. We always do. That's really important. So
I think, and to back Matthew up with that conversation. So once we have the data, we can actually go to the sports and sort of say, look, people don't have time. So you need to start thinking about having smaller, shorter competitions, like more often, so that they might be able to come and participate for a short amount of time without having to commit to like 6 months or 5 months of being a participant in a huge competition. And, you know, going to places like the pool and saying they want, you know, give us some little tasters, little things that they can just come in and start getting activated, and then hopefully that'll help them to find time to carry on. So it just helps us to go and have those conversations and say, this is the thing, what can you and what can we support you with to try and change what you're doing that might cater for that need, and encourage people to face that need as well.
the next slide's probably focuses on young people, Max, and so I think that's again there are similar aspects coming through again. If I look about the top areas of barriers for our young people here is around. Yep, again, it's I'm tired, I don't have enough energy, I'm too busy. It's hard to motivate myself. So there's a lot of those barriers which are stopping people from moving. Now, I've got here in terms of, you know, competing against the demands of their lives as well. So we know that a lot of your young people will be working, they're at school, they'll be doing exams, they'll be doing their NCA, etc., all those sort of things. There's a lot of demands on their lives. So again, it comes back to how do we innovate? You know, how do we innovate against the traditional method of sport? And we talk about here is why education is really important when it comes to our young people here in Ōtorohanga. If we can ensure that young people are experiencing enough quality and enjoyable activity during their school day, then we don't have to expect too much of them to do work after 3 o'clock. So it's the importance of how health and PE and school setting, particularly for a lot of our young people, is adopted inside that very important 6-hour window that probably now, Max, the importance of physical activity during the day is just as important as probably maths and sciences as well, and the well-being of young New Zealanders now. So we're really pushing hard with education around the importance of health and PE in the school setting, as well as traditional learning in the school environment as well. So that's really key. From a sporting perspective, this, and I sort of mentioned it briefly on the last slide. From a sporting perspective, it does mean we need to, I think about new formats, and also less time commitment are required to support young people trying to negotiate busyness as well. So the new formats means, I suppose, if I sign up for a code, I'm in that code the best part of 3 or 4 months. And that's, I think, also going to create issues, you know, going to create challenges for our young people around that time commitment as well. So that's a conversation we need to be having with regional sports organisations, is what is the offering you're giving young people? Because if we continue doing the status quo of a very long season and a long expectation to commit, and also added to quite strong big fees, that's going to put a lot of pressure on our people in Ōtorohanga to compete at those, particularly our young people. And the other big one around here is the cost of participation in Ōtorohanga district. There's almost 1 in 5 young people are saying that the cost of participation is a real serious barrier in terms of travel. So travel is always going to be a big one for Ōtorohanga residents.
And just following on from what Matthew just talked about again, was with the youth in particular, they're quite different to when we were younger, guys. You know, we would commit, and we committed. And you know, I'm player coach for Korean women's teams, and frustrated sometimes with how easy some of them find something else to do on a Saturday and can't come to a game. That's just the new generation, but they need to be stimulated more. And so we're working closely within the schools about trying to get a little bit more within the school about led by what they want to have, what do they need, what would they like to participate in, And so we're talking with sports, not only on just sort of like shorter competitions, but we're talking to sports about, you're actually sharing this with the same participant. So here in Ōtorohanga, so that's where that balance better is coming in. Those conversations is like, you have them for this bit, and then we'll set something up for them to come and play, you know, and keep them engaged by actually participating in something different each time, rather than just having to commit to the one thing for a winter season, one thing for a summer. So we're doing a lot of work in that space, and there is actually a project here coming up in my up and coming work that we will talk, that's really exciting for Ōtorohanga, and Matthew's going to talk a little bit more about it. But just starting there, so up and coming work, so I've got continued work on the play, active recreation and sport plan. So that, and I think I said that last time when we spoke in April, was the last one was 2019. So basically have rewritten it. We've got a new version that is about to go to council just to check, and we will look at putting it getting a little bit of maybe some public consultation around it to make sure that people like the look of it, and then it should be landing in front of you guys to adopt. So that is our working plan that aligns alongside the LTP, and it also includes a lot of things that have come out of the town concept plan, the best of ones. One of my key things coming up, so one of the things is the revitalisation of island reserves. And so the state of sport forum is something that I'm kicking off in 1st of September. So the reason it's then is because it's the end of the winter season. It's a really good opportunity to capture all the sports, and it's not just sports, schools will be invited, community people will be invited to come have an opportunity to just come and have a say. Tell us about how what is the status quo within your sport? You know, what have been some of your challenges? What have been some successes? What are some things that you think could be potentially good for your sport or for the community going forward? So it's going to be a forum where we're going to workshop. We're going to sit people, if 4 people from a club come along, they're going to sit at 4 different tables. And we're going to sit with a variety of people, and we're going to have conversations around who, they're going to talk, not us, talk about what they're doing in their sports. They're going to do sharing, and by the end of the night, and it's not going to be lots and lots of questions to them, but we've designed it in such a way that by the end of the 4th question that they've done some brainstorm around, they've actually started to connect, actually started to talk already about how actually we probably should think about how we could work together with that. That is our goal. So that then, we potentially now know that they're probably going to say, we need more volunteers, we need more coaches, we need more people to come and play our sport. We know that's what it's going to say, but hopefully the conversation is going to open it up around collaboration. How good has it been tonight to actually have that conversation and have our say, so that we can match something going forward and have some initiatives that will come out that they would like to see.
The next one is around the Ōtorohanga College to participate in Sport New Zealand's Active As initiative. Council, if I could just really quickly take you through what this means. So Active As is a new project between Regional Sports Trust, Sport Waikato and Sport New Zealand that focuses on enhancing rangatahi wellbeing and learning by supporting secondary schools to provide quality active rec and sport opportunities. From June 23 or now to December 26, 40 schools across New Zealand, and 8 regions have been chosen and supported to design and implement their own physical activity initiatives that will focus on 1, increasing the physical activity levels of teenagers, particularly those that are less active, enhancing the wellbeing of rangatahi through physical activity, demonstrating the value of physical activity to educational priorities. Student voice must be heard. So Ōtorohanga College has been selected as one of those 40 schools in New Zealand through 8 regions as part of the new pilot Active As. Waikato region had 6 schools that were nominated, or 6 schools that were chosen to be involved in that. So Ōtorohanga College is one of, we've got 45 secondary schools across the region. Ōtorohanga, we initially pitched for a cluster model, knowing in the King Country, thinking we could work together with the likes of Tikawiti, Piu, Taumaranui, and whether we combine some of the investment. We were delighted that to learn that all four King Country secondary schools were chosen as part of a 3-year program. So all those four King Country schools have now, and so there is an element of collaboration, including Ōtorohanga College. The investment is $100,000 per annum for the next 3 years that will work through. So we're really per school. So we're really delighted. We went for a cluster approach, but all of King Country Sport New Zealand have identified the whole 4 areas. So there's a lot of opportunities, significant investment coming into the Ōtorohanga down to the other 3 secondary schools, which we think is a really neat way that we can work closely about really focusing on really neat things around really good participation opportunities for these 4 secondary schools that are close by. So that's been a really good outcome for us.
So I'm actually involved in supporting those schools, so they're part of my King Country cluster. I'm very excited about it because it's Temeranui, Kepu, Tikapoti and Ōtorohanga. The Kura is the only other school, but the Kura has some support from elsewhere, but they're still part of our cluster. So all the information, so it's about it's principles of locally led. So at the moment, we're going through workshops. Sport New Zealand are hosting workshops, and we've got the second one tomorrow, with kids that have been identified from school. So 8 to 10 are coming with their principals. That we've had one model workshop, and it's on how they can go back into their schools and locally lead by, talking to the rest of the youth that are in the school, supporting them to decide, what do we want? Why am I not active? What could help me be active? So it's going to be locally led stuff happening in the schools. And so then in the cluster perspective, those leaders will be then able to come into our cluster with the information that we have, and we meet every term to decide on what inter-school kind of things we want to have, and it's going to come out of that, and it might be some totally different things to the things that they're doing now. So I'm really excited that it's a 3-year project, that each school is getting this funding to support. So, and it's only going to support us, so the information that they're gathering and consulting the youth are going to help me go to the clubs and say, this is what the kids are saying, so what are you going to do about it? You want more participants, what are you going to offer that these kids can be part of? And I think it's really exciting. And 4 schools out of 40 in New Zealand, it's pretty amazing. So I'm really looking forward to working with that. So moving on from that, so other things that I'm working on is, so at the moment, working with the Ōtorohanga Development Board. So they've got 2 business case studies with the cycleways. That's part of the cycleways consultation. That's also come out of the town concept planning. So we're going to be hosting I'm supporting Michelle to host a consultation around these initiatives, get some feedback, where are they at, what are you wanting, so that we can maybe work forward. Also supporting the community board with the fitness trail project. So that's wasn't going to be an overnight thing, but we've managed to tie in what's going to be happening on the slot banks, also with some other projects that are happening within town concept plan, like Patea Park upgrades, so that we can stage and maybe put some fitness equipment into some of those developments. So we're working through that process. So I've got I'm just supporting a couple of people in the community board. Katrina's one of them, to sort out what we're going to do. But we've certainly looked at staging it. It's a 3-stage project, so that we can fit in the other developments that are going to come out of our concept planning actions.
Just on that too, I think that your question, I look back now and I'm looking at some of the work on the radar. You actually are doing a great job trying to address and create opportunities for your residents. I think about the fitness trail, I think about the cycleway opportunities as well. So there's a deliberate intent from this council to actually try and address that question you posed at me.
And of course, one of the first things when I started was to really look at, the hubbing thing that we looked at in 2015 about the down at Island Reserve. And so hubbing is one of the key priorities from council to support the community to consider. So I'd like to, so first of all, we've been working with the Ōtorohanga Croquet Club. So they now are officially amalgamated and incorporated, and they now called the Ōtorohanga Bowls, Croquet and Recreation Club. And that recreation, I was so excited when they officially told me that that was what it was called because it was a conversation I'd had with them saying, well, you know, like you want new members and you want all these young people, but you know, potentially they're going to come, but they're going to go, but they're going to leave, they don't come back. So who else can we cater for in the community? You know, kind of like putting it nicely, we're kind of like the older person's hub, potentially. And they were like, oh yeah, there are a lot of older people that need something, somewhere to go and somewhere to recreate. And so, you know, they've invited the senior citizens now to come and use their facility because needing to repurpose their hall. They've invited the fitness group to come and use the facility. And, you know, they see themselves as being able to let the tractor club come and have their monthly meetings there. And it's actually really growing. So they asked me to stay on their new committee for 6 months just to keep them honest. And I have been because they have conversations around, let's have a darts competition. And I'm going, yes, so what are you doing for the wives? You know, well, you've got this other part of the area, so don't forget the ladies too, guys, because you're all excited, but they are really excited. So they went from, you know, the 105-year-old bowls club worried about losing their identity to this group of croquet people, you know, retired farmers that, you know, and some ladies that have retired from golf, sort of thinking, you know, but that for money, but we don't lose identity. To now actually officially having their opening day, and when we interviewed them, because we're going to use them as a little case study for other, you know, opportunities within the Waikato, to say, when we asked them the question, you know, like, what do you enjoy about the hub? And they said, well, we're excited about the future because they can now see that they've got opportunities to still bring in some other groups to actually use the facilities the next month. They kind of want to grow it. So that's been really exciting. And then the other one I've been working on is the rehoming of RDA. So the RDA equestrian. So that is more from not just getting a piece of land that's been donated and developed for RDA alone. It's now a project scope that's developed between the Olivers, Momentum, myself and RDA, so I'm kind of the community voice. It's now going to be called the Ōtorohanga Equestrian and Rural Community Hub. And we've got a really cool scope for that. And the best thing about it is Momentum being involved and sat down with them and with the RDA. So we've been doing a feasibility study, been supporting them with their feasibility study around because they thought that they would have to build the indoor facility themselves that they require for their business. But Momentum have said, you tell us what you want and we will find the money for it. And so we were kind of quite excited. So that's, yeah, just at the moment, we've just got a few issues just with the signing of the agreement for the land because ill health from one person. So, but that is really looking exciting. So, yeah, got heaps to do and I'm really happy to be back in the area.
So council, Mayor Max and council, are there any questions?
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Robbie. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that fitness trail. And then hopefully stage 2 and stage 3 don't take another 20 years. It's been muted for at least the last 10. We just haven't made any progress on it. So rather than having the conversation around a lot of these objectives, it'd be nice to actually get some of them operational. Cycle trail to Ōtorohanga would be a good starting point. Yeah, but again, that has been talked about for probably at least 3 years now, and we still haven't got there. So yeah, I'm glad. Yeah. Certainly real good news that Ōtorohanga College is part of that initiative because if that then motivates half the kids to get active as well and be a part of it, then that is a real positive for us. And it's really sad that they're not partaking in physical activity. I'm not talking just Ōtorohanga College, but the kids in general because they're lazy or don't have the energy. Well, yeah, it's kind of which comes first.
You're 16% though, so in terms of youth that are participating, so meeting the guidelines, so it's still pretty high there. Yeah, but there's that 40 we're after.
Yeah. Anyway, questions, councillors?
Just a couple of quick ones, Your Worship. Matthew and Robbie, thanks for your presentation. Carpio has also got a fitness trail, which you're probably aware of. Yep. Yeah, good, good. Look, you're probably already across this, but the Carver Sports Club is rebuilding. And there may be an opportunity for you guys to partner with them because they're talking about trying to get a number of sporting activities back off the ground out there. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Take that back to.
Yeah.
So that's my, yeah, I got this initiative that Ross is finally handed over to me, is to have some, conversations with the Carver Sports Club and try and do kind of community conversation on how here,
That's the difference. We've got our spaces in place, that facilities guy Shane Brake is outstanding. So just anything around the whole area of infrastructure, what we can pull Shane into, you know, whether it's Ōtorohanga, whether it's Kāpia, those that are around, you know, anything around infrastructure or future planning, particularly around potentially aquatics and access at any stage. The person we've got now is absolutely quality, so to support council in that space.
and sorry, on there, for example, using Shane, the equestrian facility looks like it could be a sub-regional, because we will be able to cater, there's no RDA in the summer. So looking at our facilities, going to be a quality facility, because we have stuff that we can relate to it. So we can probably find that looking at the surface that we're putting out there, we're putting a lot of people coming from outside the area to do that.
I think, Robbie, I'm glad you're part of that initiative as well, and certainly big coup for us is obviously having momentum on that. Is there going to be a burnout, Pat, in my shows? No, I'm asking in all genuineness. I'm actually asking this.
I'll have bar dances.
Same, I suppose, yeah, that'll really draw the young people in. No, I actually say that in all genuineness because I mean, it's a question that's asked all around the bloody country. And you've got this big block of land there. If you put a corner of concrete, you'd have a massive activity pad there as well.
I'm just not sure whether RDA would like to do now.
That's fair call.
There, so.
Yep. Any further questions, councillors? Yeah, sorry, Councillor.
Robbie, someone asked me about doing athletics. Apparently there's no one taking athletics. You don't know, is there a list of someone? Or?
No, there is no, so, when I left DOT, he kind of carried on doing it.
Yeah, I think she's
kind of stopped. So that's something that I need to work through with the school. And yeah, particularly even through this project, look at how we get them, get the information out. Especially the format that we had it, the format that we used to have it, wasn't straight out boring or anything.
Yeah, well, we will have a talk to Waikato Bay of Flags too, but we'll make sure I contact them this as well, just talk to that regional body around the concerns.
Yeah, and I had one other question. Well, I just noticed your graph for the older people not doing 26% of us are too tired. I used to be one of those people, but I kind of had sleep apnea, so I'm just wondering if you look at health demographics too, because I had sleep apnea and honestly you are too tired. But now I've got that, and now I'm back up walking in the mornings, and you know, and it makes changes your life around. But yeah, why you get stuck in that? Well, you're not sleeping basically. So yeah, well, I don't know if you link that with your sport located with health. Or,
it all fits in the whole wellbeing thing, that whole wellbeing box at the moment. That's one thing I know that right people move and address a lot of issues. And so we do probably need to make sure we've got that aligned with health as well.
Sometimes that wellbeing is just like having something that people know that might activate them, and that's like our older people up. You know, the line of people that's sitting at home and comfortable, so something like that, where they see people being active and start to engage. We know that once we start being active, we feel better. But we've got to keep them, like, you know, encourage them.
And it's like the next door to us, a guy started a boxing gym, and it's just like massively taken off. You know? Yeah, you just get one person, and he yells at those kids.
You might be in there next.
Oh, no. One day,
Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, hey guys, as it's been a year or two since I've been at secondary school, what's the focus on, PE within the school curriculum these days? I mean, you know, back when we were all younger at school, it was, you know, 3 to 4 times a week you were at PE as part of the school curriculum. Is that still a thing, or is it declined, or is it increased?
Yes, and one thing we're doing, Councillor Hughes, we're looking at a sport like I was going to put on for a first. It's going to be a regional conference that brings in primary school teachers, secondary school teachers, and those who are in that PE space, and also regional sports organisations that we're doing in November. We're bringing them all together. It could be quite a useful conference to go to. It's going to be a day's conference on the 14th of November. Again, we're going to have key speakers that reinforce the importance of PE in school. And and I think that's it's certainly from a health, and that's what we mentioned before. We need to start having chats to education when we talk about some of those participation rates where they're at the moment. It's how you integrate the importance of PE, physical education, which the learning of physical education, the benefits of physical, and also throwing some shoes on and running around the court, whatever that is in terms of the physical side. How important that is in a teenager's life. When they're in that captured moment of 6 or 7 hours at school, whatever it is. And so, certainly, Steve, we're big on that, and we're going to make a really big play on that in terms of this conference again, hammering home the importance. Now, we can't get away from numeracy and literacy in terms of education, we know that. But I just think the generations, every decade that we go on, I think it's going to be so important that our education system places importance on movement and on the importance of physical education.
And we are across that because we have our PL meeting.
Yeah.
Partners, we've got with the primary school backyard as well as the secondary school as well. That works with secondary school, and it's around looking at what they're doing within the curriculum, and even if it's so they might not be specific PE as much, but they're talking to the teachers about how can you do learning through getting outside active learning at the same time. So our team is certainly working really well with those.
I suppose there's also a fact that comes in as peer pressure. I mean, young people will follow what other young people are doing. So if you're getting specific people with the young people get into a sport, and other people will join that sport through I think that's always been around that. We were all we were playing rugby when we were younger because our mates played it basically. So I suppose if there's a focus on that, getting that peer pressure thing there as well, where other people will join sports because their friends are doing it. It's a big part of it too, isn't it? And it will follow through from the physical education thing, as you said, educating people or young people around sports and how to participate in those sports.
So one thing too, Steve, we're really big on the quality of experience. So particularly for the actual user. So the user here is a teenager in terms of their so they want a good experience. They want a quality experience. So what defines a quality experience? Well, that's actually playing, not sitting on the sideline. What defines a quality experience? It's probably the way the game is actually official. So that's the referee and umpiring type of thing. So we've got to make sure that we've got good quality officials for training. Good umpires and officials are really important in that sport offer, because ultimately, if the experience for the individual is no good, and I'm turning up every Saturday and I only get 5 minutes court time, or I only get 5 minutes on the field as coming on, I'm not going to stay in sport. I'm going to go with that. Not sure I can say that word, but I'm not going to stay. I'm just going to decide to say, look, I'm just not going to play. And that's so it comes back to the quality of that experience. It's interesting. We've had 3 big World Cups. We've had the Women's Cricket World Cup. We've had the Rugby World Cup tournament, and we've just had we have the FIFA, which is absorbing the nation. And a lot of people talked about the fact that you put these on, and that'll inspire the generation to play sport. Well, we know that that's okay for their top teams. So if it's If it's a Waikato women's rugby team, they'll play at Waikato Stadium and they'll be the best changing rooms you've ever seen. Now, those changing rooms now are better than my bathroom. They've got USB ports and everything, and they're all and they're appropriate changing facilities now. But that's at the top end. So still, the experience for a young lady who's playing rugby at a club side is going to a particular ground. And what are they greeted by? They're greeted by these old male changing rooms still. So we've still got issues around the quality of experience, particularly for our female gender at the moment, which is a massive opportunity. But you can't just put on a Rugby World Cup and say that young girls will go and play the game. They've still got to have, so it comes back to Steve, the quality of experience that those young ladies are getting. So that's the key for us. That's where we've got to work with council now around, if we want 50% of our gender staff opportunities to play sport, we've got to work with our councils around infrastructure that supports females being able to play sport. I'm just using our females as an example, but that's something that we're really big on too, to create that opportunity.
Councillor Prendergast.
Through your worship, excuse me, great report as always. But my question is really about how do you engage, particularly with the school leavers and upwards to retirement age. How do you engage with them? How do you draw them in? And always my focus is rural, particularly now with wellbeing being so very important.
Yeah, and if I can speak on that, so that's part of the conversation that we always have with clubs, and that's definitely going to be part of the conversation that's going to come out of the school forum development process after that. Is the clubs need to get into schools and engage while they're at school, and showcase themselves in there and get them engaged, so that when they then leave school, they're already connected to a club. And some sports already do it, you know, like coaching on the rugby club, for example, all the junior rugby is run out of the club. But for some, you know, school teams, like in England, they'll be in school teams. That's not happening as much. So once we can keep that kind of thing happening, then that's and for rural, it's always going to be more difficult because you have to travel to do it. So, but in a lot of the rural, some of the rural kids go to boarding schools, so they sometimes are already starting to go clubs there as well.
I think, Councillor, I think you're probably getting a little bit tired of the time and travel and you know, as a councillor, because you probably hear that every year. I wonder also whether or not we have to seriously start having conversations with some of our regional schools to say travel is a legitimate issue, and you know, for us. So, do we need to start thinking more localised competitions? Do we have to be heading to Hamilton to play sports? Can I? Yeah, I might play the same team. That's a lot more local, maybe more than I should, you know, in terms of having a variety. But at least I'm playing sport and I don't have to travel so far. And that's the pressure on that. So I might be playing, I don't know, say just for example, a team from Tikawiti every 3 weeks, but at least I'm playing sport rather than, I don't think I can go there because mum and dad can't afford to take me up to Hamilton all the time. So those are some of our legitimate things we've got to start thinking about. I do seriously also think that, yes, we're probably always going to have a first netball team at Ōtorohanga. We're going to have we may have a rugby team, whatever it is. But if there are any teams underneath, do we keep them towards the club? You know, and I'm sorry if I'm frustrating educationalists here, but it's getting to the stage now from year 9 or year 10. I've grown up in the club system, and once I get to year 9, I actually go into the school system where there are challenges. There are legitimate about actually running that particular sport. I still think we'll always have the first teams playing in the secondary school competition. But are we getting to a stage now where we actually hold them onto that club system? Because once they're in the club system, it is a strong system. Think about their own club down here down the road. It's a very good club system. And I think that's probably some of the challenges that we have to start thinking about, because what we're seeing is quite a big drop off around sport participation when they leave intermediate school, and then they're into that school system in 5 years. They find it quite difficult for them to come back into that club system. I think that's your question, Councillor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I partly I'll go back to the rural in a minute, but you think about all the young ones who go away to university, they don't go to school to be affiliated with, so they have to go to the club, and it's great. And they meet a lot of people, and it works for all the right reasons. One of the things that we used to do in rural areas was like we'd have quite like touch rugby. It's probably October, November, December, and it was a short, sharp play in 4 weeks, always a barbecue afterwards, and it did a huge amount for the community in the wellbeing space. And then there'd be another one in March, April. Short, sharp. Everyone's busy. Everyone's almost going to be busy.
And it's probably on a weeknight as well.
It was on a weeknight, and it took a lot of the need for travel, great distance away, and that sort of thing I think would be hugely beneficial going forward. And it involved both sexes, you know, it didn't matter what age you were.
As part of my RCC team, we've actually been having discussions around rural areas, and it's around rural walls. So even already in Waitona, I know that there's a couple of rural communities out there that do all sorts of different things at their walls, and we've actually been having conversations around how can we start helping our rural communities focus on maybe having interdisciplinary, like in the community little challenges, exactly what you've been talking about. So that is something that we've been brainstorming, and it is something that's potentially possible, and like I say, I mean, I grew up in the rural term, we used to have tennis lines at different people's places, sometimes you just congregate, there were people just the old grass, and it was really good value. Regulated because we've been doing regulated and things like that. So yeah, we've definitely been talking about that in how we got to remember our rural
Just one further quick
One
question,
quick
if I
one,
may, Your
Councillor.
Worship. Yeah, Matthew, we grew up in an area where sport was pretty much amateur, and I'm just interested to hear what your viewpoint is on whether you think professional sports these days, with the money that's been introduced, and I just saw on the news this morning, European golf, $248 million this year been pumped into golf just for the European tour. Do you think money is ruining our sports, or do you think it's actually added something to them? There's two schools of thought there, I think. Yeah, I know when I was playing footy, we got a jersey. We had to pay for our own socks, our own shorts, our own everything. So
It's a really good question. We're never going to go away from where we are now, and it's part of the global. It's part of our society now. I think, and the danger is it's how the competitions perceive themselves as being, and the challenge, I think, and there was an article around the NPC, the rugby competition, the Bunnings NPC and Heartland, and they're trying to sort of they're trying to still remain in that amateur, in that professional, semi-professional state. They can't sustain it. There's no way you can sustain that 26 provincial unions around New Zealand being able to, and for example, I think, I'm not sure what it's like for Waikato to open up the stadium, but I can imagine that's a pretty heavy invoice to just open up, and then you're paying you're paying them salaries as well. So I think it's about the recalibration. I think we will always have that top tier, that the Silver Ferns, the New Zealand cricket, have the New Zealand rugby, and we have that top tier. But I think there's a real recalibration issue that has to happen a couple of tiers down, Kate, and that's the issue at the moment, because at the moment it's sucking up too much money. And I think, and I also think we need to, and it goes back to Robbie's comment around balance is better at secondary school level. I think we've unfortunately promoted that high end too quickly for our teenagers to think that they are trying to aspire to become professional sports people, and they get a television in front of their face and a microphone, and they're about 16 years of age. And I don't think that's the best thing for these young, because there's actually, to be honest with you, there's a lot of instances of these really top schools that have gone into playing high level professional sport, and they got trainers kit that taking them through the gym and all this sort of thing. And actually, the actual data shown of how many of them have gone on to actually playing competitive rugby as an adult, right at the high level, have fallen away because I think they're actually burnt out. So your question's a really good one. I think there is that recalibration around where does this competition actually fit? Is it amateur? Is it professional? You can't have both, and I think that's our biggest issue.
Yeah, I guess, look, I totally agree, and I think the issue for me has always been that unless you've got your grassroots stuff embedded and working well, you might as well forget about your top level stuff because there's going to be nothing coming through, is there?
It's still, we talk about it. The grassroots is the heart and soul of community participation at all sport. It still is, Kit, and it's probably like when you played and when I played initially, where I had the opportunity to go into a semi sort of professional state. But those early amateur years, they were good years, and they were. I know you got a pair of boots, but you'll never take it back.
Awesome, guys. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Robbie.
Sum that up, in the NSO zone, they have been told to pull their heads in, they're starting to get players too young. In the hockey space, and they are burning out before they even get to be their best. And definitely the grassroots is being left out, and we have to build the grassroots to keep those players. We've got to continually keep focusing on that grassroots, and that's the area that we're focusing.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Your Worship, just a quick addition. Just referring to the rural travel and cost of travel, we do currently have our Sport New Zealand Rural Travel Fund open. It happens every 6 months. Application window is open, and that is specifically to assist in the travel costs for young people to attend sporting practices across the district. And that's available every 6 months, and it's open right now. So please, it's been advertised very widely, and we've pushed it, but feel free to kind of let people know.
Cool. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Matthew. Good seeing you. You like the chambers?
I love the chambers.
Thank you.
I've got one issue with your chief executive, is that could you tell her to remove the camera from behind, because I've noticed that it's a pretty thinning feature. And I think that's an issue that's a performance issue, please, Max.
We only put that in when you're here, Matthew.
No, thank you. Thanks very much,
Awesome.
Council. It's always
awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Robbie. Hey, so we have a staff recommendation here that the Ōtorohanga District Council received the report, Sport Waikato 6-month report, 1 January to 30 June 2023 from Nikki Daly. Move on a second for that, please. Move Councillor Prendergast, second Councillor Dow. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Mark, we'll move back to item 68, wasn't it? 68 update on 3.
We don't have some time, we need to go to the financial.
Do we? So which agenda am I listening to here?
You're listening to your CE, that's all you're
Okay,
doing.
because financial was after lunch, 3 was before.
Yeah, 3.
Brendan, sorry, Mark. Good exercise, mate. Good to see you doing your daily activity.
Yeah.
Brendan, welcome.
Thank you. I don't know what Matthew was complaining about, because it's much worse for me. Thank you, Worship. So this is the first financial report for the new financial year to the end of July. So new budget. Just going through sort of a high level. So in our comprehensive revenue and expenses, because it's the first report in the first month, you're going to expect a bit of up and down and that sort of stuff. So overall, we've got a net surplus of 5.7 mil compared to 5.4 budgeted. So most of that is around the expenditure side of things. So expenditures under budget to the end of July. Revenue is, apart from the other income, is pretty much bang on.
Rates of income obviously went out, our first invoices went out in July and are due at the end of August. So that's why we've got a massive amount of income and not as much expenditure, and therefore a big net surplus. Onto the balance sheet. So because of that, we've also got a very healthy working capital at the moment of $6.2 million. Again, we've got significant debtors and a significant amount of cash as well, with not so much in the way of liabilities outstanding as at the end of July. And then onto the next page, the combined cost service statement. So as you can see there, revenues 450,000 under budget. Most of that is actually our other general sources, which is our internal charging, and that's just a timing issue. A lot of that internal charging is related particularly to roading contracts, and a lot of the capital work on that is happening to the summer months. So some of that will ramp up as we go through. Also just with the use of some contractors instead of staff, we've got some vacancies. They don't go through other general sources because they don't do internal charging. They just get charged directly into expenditure, so that has an impact on that as well. And then in terms of expenditure, we're sort of down across the board everywhere. It could be a number of reasons. It might be the way that the budget's been split. So I've used basically for operating expenditure, where we spent the money last year, I've used that as the same basis for splitting the budgets. But obviously there could be some timing issues there where something might have got paid early last year and is therefore later this year. Obviously things like maintenance is very difficult to guess where you're going to spend your budget. So it's a little bit of a guess there. I am planning in terms of the capital side of things to sit down with Mark's team to work through their budgets probably early September to make sure that allocation of their budgets is a bit more accurate to what they actually think they're going to spend the money. So at the moment, again, I'll just use where we spent it last year, which is fine probably for the roading sort of stuff, but some of the other capital items like the wastewater project that we've got going on, some of the water projects probably need to be changed a bit in that back end. So the budget amount won't change, it's just which months we think we're going to spend it. I'll tidy that up early next month. Mark's team. So that going forward, the reporting should be slightly more accurate in terms of where we think the budget was going to be versus where we actually are. So I guess that's the report, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Brendan. Yeah, pretty hard to take a lot out of it, but thank you. Same. Any questions, councillors? It was simple and easy. Therefore, we have a recommendation in front of us that the Ōtorohanga District Council receive a report titled Financial Report for the month ending 31st July 2023 from Brendan. Moved and seconded. Moved Councillor Prendergast, seconded Councillor Jeffries. All in favour? Against? Carried. Be safe for another time.
Excellent. Thank you.
We're adjourning for lunch now. Okay, take a break, councillors. We're adjourning for lunch. Welcome back, everybody. It's post-lunch, so please try and stay awake. That's why I've got Mark up next. On the Three Waters reform. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'll take the report as read, but it's basically, I suppose it's almost an annual update since the last time we brought a report to council on the water reform, formal report, I should say. We've obviously had a few updates along the way. So I suppose that just a couple of little quick things in there. Probably the biggest change is the reset to the reform back in April, moving from 4 entities to 10, which is, we still remain an entity B. And the movement of, instead of transition 2024 to potentially 2026, or all entities should transition by 2026 July. So those are probably the real big changes. For us, obviously council is still engaged in the process. I'm still a member of the local transition team, along with Barry Bergen, who's supporting us through this. The information I've received lately is that the funding will continue through for another 6 months to support us in that, I suppose, with extra resourcing. We actually have that agreement in front of us now that we're just reviewing, so that's quite a good bonus for us as the key as we move through these work streams of all varying different degrees of work. We have to sort of pull on extra resources, and we've just sort of started working that customer and digital space, which is very IT related, and thankfully I don't have to work through that myself. So we've got Graham's team working on that. Really good. So I think unless there's any questions, just take the report as read. I can answer any questions.
Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Just on looking at 4.9 on page 33. And it just said at the start that we need to revisit some of the projects to ensure the council has sufficient funding and resource capabilities. So I was just, my question was, yeah, what mechanism is there to revisit those planned projects, and are they likely to be underfunded or under-resourced, or what are you, or what projects, what are you thinking there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when we went through the CapEx and OpEx RFI with the DIA, we were required to put through what our next sort of capital and operational expense would be for the next 30 years. Now, we were told at the time to be reasonably unconstrained in that prediction or forecast, and then there would be some prioritisation at that point. So I suppose it would take one step back. We've always taken the position of we'll just keep doing things how we do things rather than trying to do things differently. So we were quite reserved in our forecasting, and now that it's come back to us for 2 years to manage water activities, there's not a lot of changes to do there. So probably one of the key projects is, I think, without it in front of us, I think we've brought the wastewater project maybe a year forward, potentially, because I think it was, I haven't got it in front of me, sorry, Councillor, I think it was sitting out in year 4 or 5. We might have moved it to 3 and 4. But that might be one that we have to look at. It may not even be a factor, but still sitting outside the next 2 months. it's a bit of work I haven't started yet, but within the next few weeks, I hope to start looking at that.
Just to add to that, through you, Your Worship, there are some councils who, when the proposed dates for transition were announced, probably went out with a quite ambitious capital works program, because of course the thinking was there'd be water entities managing water services and that. So as Mark said, we were quite conservative, thank goodness. Because there's some councils who now have a massive affordability kind of issue, and they're going to have to peel things back over the next couple of years.
Councillor Jeffries.
Well, thanks, Your Worship. Yes, through you, Mark, looking at clause 4.4, how much has DIA actually provided us so far with funds to cover our costs? Can you quantify that?
So to date, the first tranche was 350,000.
350, yep.
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I understand the next tranche is going to be 2 payments of just over 100,000 each. So from our point of view, we're working well within that funding. So we haven't had to seek out additional funding.
So you're confident that the future costs will be covered by, there's no suggestion that we'll be out of pocket in any way?
Yeah, relatively confident. I mean, I don't know what's coming up in the next few months and how much work's going to be required. I feel like we've done a lot of the lion's share of work already. I don't understand or don't know what else might be coming. There's a lot of that work in the customer and digital space, and Graham knows all about that. But sorry, but from where I'm sitting, it looks like we've sort of broken the vacuum.
Okay, thanks. 4.9, just picking up from what Councillor Johnson was asking there too, was I assume, and this is probably more directed at Graham, but I assume that DIA is still going to meet any new debt that's incurred, including deficit reserves, between now and July 2026.
Yeah, that's correct. Councillor Jeffries, and in fact, we're still waiting on the debt confirmation from DIA, which was supposed to be here early July, but I don't believe any councils have received that as yet. We should have any update on that, Tanya.
Yeah, so when we met with Heather Shotter, who's the General Manager CE of the National Transition Unit, she said that a lot of the work that they were doing to meet that earlier deadline has now gone on hold because they had to recast all their planning to fit the new deadline, as well as stand up 10, get 10 kind of areas underway in terms of, the new entity structure. So yeah, there was a lot of things that we were maybe expecting on a timeline that have now been pushed out a wee bit while they just sort of get themselves sorted in that new, the new reset.
Okay, thanks. On 4.10, has there been any discussion yet on the likely headquarters location for these merged entities? And should we be pushing for the headquarters not to be located in major urban centres like Hamilton and Tauranga, perhaps Ōtorohanga? Well, I'm just thinking of great employment and social benefits for having a headquarters like that in a smaller rural area.
Yeah, I don't know how much influence I can have on that, Councillor.
If you get the opportunity, put a plug in for us.
I think the key messaging of that paragraph is that in merging take part after establishment. So yeah, that was one of the submissions, was to have those merging discussions before establishment. It didn't seem to get through. It still would happen after establishment.
Right. Okay. And perhaps just one last one, Mark, 5.8. You talked about the Ranganui Rural Water Scheme as a stock-only scheme, but do they still need to opt out, or are they automatically out of it?
Right, so you're referring to Ranganui?
Yes.
Yeah, so they won't be captured by the water entity. I see the word unlikely in there, actually it probably should be won't. Yeah, so that's because they don't have potable drinking water, they may be picked up by the entity.
Right. And sorry, there was one further quick one, 5.12. I'm just interested to know whether the entities, either singularly or merged, have agreed on any software products that they talked about. So I guess the question is based around each council has its own way of managing its assets, and may have a whole lot of different software programs. I assume that somehow or other someone's going to have to pull all that together into one software package. So do you know if any of that work's been done yet or started on yet?
We've definitely started in the migrating of the asset data. It's probably around the other sort of data now, which we had a meeting with the customer digital workstream lead last week. So they're probably in the early stages of that. How that's going to be. But I imagine they must have some sort of software.
Yeah, so the last update I got from Heather, and it's in a whole bunch of emails here, was they're about to start the commencement of the procurement process around one data platform for the whole country for the entity. So the whole country, one platform, yeah. So perhaps the start of things to come. You know, around all our different systems that we use, you know, yeah, must have been one.
Councillor Johnson, Councillor Prendergast. Yes, some of my questions have been answered there, but with the just it's not really a question, but it's just an item of discussion. I mean, with this merger of B and C, yes, it'd be good for efficiencies, but gee, I mean, we have so many of our constituents nervous about the lack of local democracy and what input they can have into this thing. You know, I mean, that's the elephant in the room. It's will we be getting further and further away from having some input into this mammoth beast? You know, so I just think that we, yeah, I suppose. Inevitable, but it's like this point that lack of local democracy, I think that will be a concern for further mergers for our constituents. And the other one too is just on a note, are we still having a meeting on Thursday with the water, of the rural water schemes?
Next week. It's next Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the 21st, is it? Yeah. 22nd.
So that's Wednesday.
Okay.
Through you, your worship, excuse me, Mark, that was my question as well. So Ranganui don't need to be at that meeting? Or should they be just in some?
Well, they probably don't need to, but we invited everyone of the rural water scheme, so if they wanted to come along, listen. I don't think we've had a lot of response.
I was going to ring each of them.
Yeah. So it probably doesn't affect them as much as it affects the other mixed use rural water schemes. So, but we didn't want to exclude them just for that reason. But we'll have another, I suppose, series of meetings with them around how we're going to manage our water activity once we don't have water activity. So that's another series of meetings coming up. And I think we're all probably waiting to see what happens in October to sort of give us some direction. How
just
things might move in the future.
Just an interest question, excuse me, if it's 4.11, if Waikato District Council are successful with their request to join entity A, how will this disadvantage us based on economy scale? 4.11 on page 35. Yep.
Look, it's only an interest question. I think we probably don't get to know.
Yeah, I think in reference, I mean, the whole reform package, or reform process was I suppose based on the fact that the larger the entity, the bigger the scale, the more efficiencies. So we've gone from having 4 to now potentially 10. So we've probably improved on our local input, but there's going to be an offset to that around the economies of scale of the large mid. I don't know what that looks like as opposed from 4 to 10 or 10 to 6, whatever they might land. I know some of the entities are quite small now, so you know, there might be some benefits in that. Those conversations will take place later on. I'm sure Tanya might know what that framework's sort of looking like. I don't think we've even seen what a merged framework would look like yet. It's sort of so far down the track.
Mr. Hughes.
Yeah, Mark, you just touched on it before when you said October the 14th. I mean, you know, depending on what happens there, there could be substantial changes within this whole framework, could there not? Is that a distinct possibility, or do they all tend to be on the same? Has this just got too big now to be able to ditch altogether?
Nothing's actually happened.
No.
So it's reversible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's CEs that have been put in place, but I bet you they've got clauses in their contracts that protect them. So we've still got all our staff, we've still got all our assets, all our debt, all our, you know, like everything's still there. Nothing. So if ever there was a time, if a government got in that wanted to reverse something, it's kind of now.
It just seems like there's a lot of work going into something.
Oh,
that could
yeah.
not
I mean,
come to
aside
fruition.
from
And it's
that-
just, you know, yeah, that's the thing. It's basically could be a monumental waste of time. Ultimately, couldn't it? And this is bureaucracy as a worse, really. So
Someone mentioned, one of the CEs said, you know, they've spent however many billion on this so far. If all of us had just been given a slice of that pie, we might have been able to sort out some of the water and wastewater.
exactly right.
But hey, that's a cynical view. So yeah.
It is. I think, yeah, things will change, Councillor. I think if it's positive, the country might be working under one operating system, and the information you've had to gather for the NTU is going to be a benefit to us in the future anyway. So there's a lot of benefits. Well, there's some benefits that will come out of it, but I think we will see a fundamental change come from the direction we're given at the moment, come October. But yeah, if you want to waste $1 billion, it's a good way to do it. So apart from those good points I mentioned, everybody's bringing up 4.6, 5.2. I'm going to go to 5.1. I cannot believe that we're asked to contract contractors for 2 years when we have no control over them for an entity. Like Council through Waters activities, yeah, the service currently provided with essential transition. The NTU has recognised that this is a risk and has asked councils to contract key contractors suppliers for 2 years after the handover date. So how can, if we're not in control of them, how do you contract them?
So my understanding is if for example, you have a contract that's going to extend past the transition date, the entity will take that contract over. So for example, our wastewater contract has a completion date of 2025. So if we transition before that, we would basically package that contract up and hand it over to entity B to continue it. So what they've said to us is they obviously everything's going to all happen at once. They're probably trying to get some breathing space. So please go out and extend all your contracts by 2 years. And it's probably more focusing on our maintenance style contracts where we might have a maintenance operator that's doing our wastewater or water reticulation. So if that contract was to end next year, they said, please extend that out 2 years, give us some breathing space for basically, so we don't have to come and deal with a whole bunch of re-tendering and re-contract evaluation sort of processes right on transition. But the interesting thing, as you just raised there, Your Worship, is if we go ahead and do that and something changes, we've actually increased the contract by 2 years, which we then have to continue with anyway. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, it might suit some councils with some larger contracts to get that stability in there, and I think it would definitely benefit the entity to have that stability going through, so they just can pick up and run rather than going through a whole tender process right at transition time or just before. Because the other risk is if you were doing a maintenance contract that was having to be tendered in the middle of this year or middle of early next year, and you were transitioning in July, it's right on the cusp, which would actually trigger a significant decision anyway, which would require the entity to be involved possibly in that process and not signing it off. So
this is talking July 2026, and if entity B wants to transition on July 25, it's actually 3 years you could potentially contract.
yeah, and I think those original comments around the extension of 2 years was based on everyone transitioning to 2024. So that's probably might be a further adjustment there. It's a constantly evolving situation.
Yes. Any further questions of Mark? Otherwise, look, thanks for the update. I'm sure there'll be plenty more, and they because as you said, it's a ever evolving beast. So no further questions. Recommendation is that the Ōtorohanga District Council received a report update on Three Waters Reform Program from Group Manager and Engineering Assets Mark Lewis. Heard Councillor Johnson, second Councillor Jeffries, all in favour. Carried. Thanks, Mark. Right. Moving on to councillor updates. So I will start with Councillor Williams. She's trying to push that on there.
Of July, sorry, thank you. I don't know. Yeah, I did. I got lost at Waikeria. But anyway, I ended up at the Waikeria Community Impact Forum halfway through Robert's presentation, which we still haven't seen yet, have we? Yeah, I think they're updating that. And it was quite interesting, even though the project is moving well down the regulatory consenting side, that the move to operational and the recruitment that's taking place, it's still a good opportunity for us to be at the table with recruitment and profiling the district as a place to live and work. And so that was further followed up with the Waikeria quarterly meeting on the 9th of August. So Kathy's at that one. So I was standing in for Kathy on the 20th, and we're going to, we managed to introduce the recruitment person to the chairperson of the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, which was a good opportunity for her on the day. And just keep that liaison going. Because I think the day that we visited, did they have about 400 staff on site that day, just sort of in the post-COVID, and now that particularly on the day there was 700 odd, so they're almost up to their 800 quota. The 25th to 29th of July LGNZ conference, which was really good. It's good to see colleagues around the country, but also to see Christchurch emerging and becoming operational again in the way that the development has switched the city to be inward looking towards the river rather than having it at its back door, and it just changes a lot of the aspects of living and working in that area. Lots of brilliant ideas. It's a pity that our river's so fast flowing and not far close enough to our main street to be able to
have the lovely walkways and the little concrete quays that go, actually the river is lapping over the bottom step so that you can korero with the eels that come up to, that made a huge impact down there. But things about the licensing work that they do down there, the focus from the keynote speaker, we've got an email that, did everyone get it or just conference attendees? I'll try and forward it and see. The keynote speaker was the first future generation ministry person from Wales. Yeah. And then one of the breakfast speakers was on, did you stay for the whole thing, Rodney? Were you too depressed about the AI influence? Yeah. So I'll forward the email, but certainly thank you for the opportunity and well worth attending when everyone can get to take a chance. I think that's me.
Councillor Katrina.
I just probably just want to add on from the public forum. Brian said that I had an online petition, which I do. It hasn't got 500, it's only got 380. The next target is 500. And I'm not, maybe just expand a little bit more, like for people watching, maybe they don't understand that council, if there's a new alcohol shop opening, council has a say, it's local that has a say. Whereas vape shops, it's the government, our local community, our local council, we don't have a say. So they can pop up in every empty shop in town. And I totally am on board myself. When I have a drink, I have a vape. So I'm not saying I'm against vapes in any way, shape or form, because my husband's gone from cigarettes to vapes, but it's our children. I've seen them vaping. They taste like lollies. It's absolutely ridiculous. And they touched on not policing it. Maybe we need to have a little talk with our local police and they do a sting operation like they do with our alcohol shops, because I'm sure we've got 15-year-olds walking in to vape shops and buying vapes, lolly smoke. So I can send you all the link to sign the petition if you like. And then, I went to the farmers' night. That was a really good turnout. The town concept meeting the other week, which is really exciting. I'm not sure if I've talked about this before, but I've started a Kai Forest group. So we've had a few meetings. I've got a plan that I've drawn up and presented to the local police station. And it's sitting with the Western Waikato leadership team at the moment, whether they will let us use the strip above their retaining wall. So it's guarded from the footpath, so there's no health and safety issues with falling off the retaining wall, as our first little community garden. So it was like, I don't know, a 10-page proposal I had to write because Jimmy said no at first. And then I sold it to him about, public perception and all that sort of stuff and did a visual. So I should hear back about that this week. And that's me.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Dow.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to go to Christchurch, and the lady, her name was Sally Howe, I think. Sally, the keynote speaker. Google it. She was quite inspirational. She was the first Welsh Future Generations Minister. So basically, they put everything with a lens of what the future is going to be like when they're doing things, not just doing things for here and now, but so obviously some things you do here and now. But she was. I think we could all build that a little bit because we're all here to make the life better for the next one coming along. So so I was late for that. No, I was late for quite a lot of it actually. But big ups to our council. To be fair, a lot of people I just chatted with and networked with, a lot of them have got a lot of infighting and they can't get on. Obviously they have different opinions as we all do, but at least we just say them and move on. And there's a lot of councils. And then otherwise I've been the farmers' night, obviously there for till closing. until the shuttle took me home. And I don't know why they always leave me till last. Anyway, they do. Yeah. And last Friday was a regional transport committee meeting. Actually, we talked about that future generations there, and Len Salt, who's the mayor of, was he Thames Coromandel, he went straight back from that conference and he appointed one of his councillors as the future generations councillor. So it gave him that, like a, that's their job. You're the youngest. So yeah, but no, it was right. So it was so thank you for the opportunity to go to Christchurch and learn and network. It's good. So, cheers.
Thanks, councillor.
Mine's very short and sweet. Unfortunately, due to other commitments, I haven't been to anything since the last council meeting. So, and I know probably Kit's got plenty to say, so I'll just pass it on. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I've got a short one too.
Oh,
just one.
Firstly, can I just say thank you to those of you who gave me some very kind words of support. The last month for me, health-wise, hasn't been that flash, but I've had an operation and I'm coming out the other side and I'm firing on 6 of my 8 cylinders at this moment. So look out for next month. So yeah, a very quiet month. Obviously, there's been a couple of meetings of the housing group. One was Zoom, the other one was in the council offices here. We had a presentation from the Bridge Housing Charitable Trust, which I've got a copy of that here, which I'm more than happy to share with anyone who's interested. But I'm sure when the housing group puts its presentation to the council, Nadi will have all that information in there anyway, part of it. But this is a group that is it's the Brian Perry group from Hamilton, and they are into assisting councils and other organisations getting into affordable rentals, secure homes, all that sort of stuff. And they've got a really interesting business plan. And at the moment, they've got a 47 home community master plan at Cambridge on the go, and a 36 apartment build to rent development in the heart of Hamilton itself. So they're pretty big time when it comes to assisting. So there's potentially an opportunity there for us to partner with people like this to get something done locally. On the 8th of August, we had the elected members workshop here, which I thought was really useful. And thank you to all those who contributed to that. And the Carfield Community Board meeting for August was cancelled, so nothing happening in that area. Perhaps before I go, I think it's my turn for my pearls of wisdom. Is that correct?
Go for it.
Right, they're very short, very sweet, hopefully. Just 4 quotes. Abraham Lincoln said, "The best way to predict your future is to create it." Number 1. Henry Ford said, "Obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off the goal." Lyndon Johnson said, "If 2 men agree on everything, you may be sure that only one of them is doing the thinking." And my favourite is Napoleon Bonaparte said, "Never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake." That's my pearls of wisdom, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor. Looking forward to those other 2 cylinders. Councillor Johnson.
See, another one that Napoleon Bonaparte said, which I often say to my wife, was that a wise general always knows when to retreat. But anyway, yeah, I've been to the farmers' night, same as other councillors here, and the elected members workshop last week. Just a couple other things. this weekend they had the central tractor pull at Tinkersmith's place at Ōtorohanga, which is was a small city last year. It was even worse this year with continual stream of tractors and cars going up Ōtorohanga Road on Friday and Saturday, and just amazing the power of Facebook. It's just people from far and wide arriving there. So yeah, really interesting. I had a week off last week. I didn't go to Ōtorohanga. I went to Wellington, and also had a couple of days in the Wairarapa on the way down. And actually went to at Greytown. They had which is a similar town to ours. It's got a main state highway down the main street, and it's a bit bigger population, and they're within sort of commuting distance from Wellington, so bigger population. But they'd closed their main street every Friday for a month and had a light festival over the winter. And we were there for the last one, and there were food trucks and every sort of shop had put lights up, and they even had a foam machine making snow from a balcony. Yeah, it was just, I guess it's the power of the commute from Wellington, I suppose, but it was just a pretty small town, and they did this for 4 weekends in a row, and I thought, gee, it's not too dissimilar to ours, actually closing your main street, which is the state highway, you know, like that. So don't know what it cost them, but it was, you know, a little bit of vibrancy that, you know, just an idea. Yeah. Also just traveling in the Wairarapa too, and you can see you know, hillsides that are still soggy, and the local council or the contractors still working on slips. You know, this is what, how many months since Cyclone Gabriel now? It just keeps slipping down, and tremendous cost it must be for them keeping the roads open. You can see just about every roadside has had its you know, verge scraped by a digger just to keep slips away. Lastly, just I've spoken to Mark about the security patrol, and it's an aside really, but just in the BT village, there's somebody who is for the 5th time has cut a fuel line in a carport there, and it's the police are involved. They're doing patrols, and we're trying to get the town security patrol to come and do that. But it's yeah, getting pretty annoying for the residents there. I mean, and you'd think it must only be one person, wouldn't you, to do go under a car, cut a fuel line to drain the fuel out. I mean, anyway, very annoying, and we're trying to work on it, and yeah. If you just for your awareness anyway. So yeah, underneath there's usually a puddle of petrol underneath, and we're taking some fuel, but anyway, just one of life's little problems we're working on, but it's not a little problem for people whose cars they have been there. Yeah, so thanks, Councillor. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Your Worship. The 2nd of the 8th, I went to the North King Country Development Trust meeting. Yeah, that trust is ticking along nicely, getting quite a few people coming through from Ōtorohanga, which is pleasant. Just to reiterate to everyone that the North King Country Development Trust is no longer giving out grants because it doesn't fit with the policy at the moment, and definitely not guidance going forward. It's been a new strategy. Loans are very, very hard to recover come D-Day. And one of the things that they're trying to do at the moment is to develop a whole lot of mentors in both Ōtorohanga and Te Kuiti. So I think I probably need to meet Tanya with the ODDB and talk about that. Because we don't, like, it's taken me a little while as a councillor to get my head around the different roles between the ODDB and the North King Country Development Trust. And I've got a reasonable definition now, but definitely, you know, there's plenty of parallels, but they've also got their own entity. But what they want to do is they want to have a mentors evening so that they train people up to be mentors. So at some stage, I'm fairly in the fairly near future, I would think, I will be emailing everyone to see if you can suggest people that would be prepared to come along and then be available to be mentors. We would need some in the rural community because it seems that there's a gap there that no one seems to have thought of having rural. So there's quite a lot happening in that space. They're also looking for a trustee who is a lawyer. I've been trying a few people that I know, but nobody's coming or rushing forward to take the position. And it's not, they don't have to work as a lawyer, being a trustee, they have to be able to give a law perspective. That's right. Yep. So that's all interesting and plenty happening there. So then on to the workshop, of course, which I also found very valuable. And then to the quarterly update with my Kerry prison last week, which Annie has covered very nicely. Thank you. So that's me.
Thank you.
Kia ora. So, oh, crazy as always. Just with the mana whenua huis that we've been having, I think we're getting some really good momentum with our discussions with them in terms of getting stuff into Becca and getting that process moving. So that's been really cool. I attended Kura A Iwi. So Kura A Iwi is a forum that so you have in Māori education, you have Aho Matua and you have Kura A Iwi. And so the wharekura falls under Kura A Iwi, and it's an alignment with your curriculum to your iwi. And so 148 schools, Meta Rotorua. And it's really interesting that the vape shop came up today in conversation because we had a keynote speaker, Dr. Terry Ann Clark, and she deals with rangatahi's mental health. And in the last 5 years, a huge, well, you had all the historical mitigation around quit smoking, and it was actually making some difference. And then with the introduction of vaping, it's actually doubled the mental health issues, it's doubled the poverty, it's doubled, especially in young Māori, and more in particular, our males. And so it's spiked lots of suicide attempts, lots of suicide behaviours. And it was actually really quite interesting because she had a pie graph and she had stuff that you could see moving out of the circle, but then she had these real red arrows that were pointing in, and it's all come through vaping. So when they introduced vaping, yes, it did a age group from 45 to 65 transfer from smoking to vaping, but what it did do, it doubled our rangatahi. Like, I think it was 65% of our 45 to 65 went to vaping, and it's almost been every child from the age of 12 to 25 is vaping. So it's doubled, and it's been really crazy. Like, I was like, oh wow. So that was really interesting that it came up today, around, you know, the actual concepts of what it's actually doing to our people in our communities. Went and spoke with Sastri and Nikki around the Ōtorohanga ora framework and stuff. It's a new thing that they're trying to create, and so that was really cool. Enjoyed doing some of that. Koroneihana practices, as we all know, Koroneihana is upon us once again. So taking the iwis and iwi through to Tūranga Waiwai this coming Friday. So that's probably about 300 people will migrate on to Tūranga Waiwai as maniapoto to perform. It's a bit crazy, but it's okay. Had a meeting with Kim and Joe at the Kiwi House the other week. And that was really cool too. So took my lovely creative husband with me because I'm not very creative. And he talked to them about the pathways going through the Kiwi House and having, there was a material that they were looking to use, a plastic thing, and it looks like tukutuku panel. And so he was able to talk a little bit more with Joe and them around making designs in their walkways through intergenerational patterns and stuff. So that was real cool. Then I went with Max out to Kawhia to talk about the car park. And I think that was a historical milestone for the council to be able to do and be in that space. And quite humbling to see that both parties, mana whenua is willing to meet us halfway, and that there wasn't so much of the the animosity that everyone else is giving. So that was really nice and humbling, Amex. Then I attended the launch for Ngāti Apakura. So Ngāti Apakura have they've had a whole heap of documented kōrero from Uncle Tom and different whānau around the atrocities that happen out Rangi Awhia. So they've with some of the kaumātua, some of the kids at Ngā Purupura o Te Aroha, just uri of Ngāti Apakura, they've actually come up with 10 waiata. So if you go onto Spotify, there's 10 of those songs on there, and they launched the first one on Friday. Etu Apakura, it's real, it's really cool. So it's got clips of the Matariki days around the rohe. It's amazing. It's real cool. And so that was the thing. And I also met with Dale Marie Morgan, who's the Māori councillor at Waipa. So that was really cool. And then I attended Ngā Tai o Kawhia with Cassidy. And then last night I also attended Te Whare o Te Haua Urukiuta at Reo Manu Marae to listen to the Waitemata District Council giving feedback into consultation around Māori wards for them. So interesting space in terms of what the whānau would like and the actual legislative obligation by council to be able to obtain that is quite interesting. But no, and my mokopuna can sing Etu e Maniapoto.
Thanks, councillor. Right, moving on, resolutions.
The road naming policy. So we've changed the staff update on that because with Andrew transitioning into his new role in September, this will be one of the policy priorities for him. So that's why we've said that it'll commence in the last quarter. The other ones, I think I need to give an update. Just happy to take if there are any questions. There's a few that we're going to remove from the register because they've been completed. I've asked that the support house lease stay on there until we've seen that the lease agreement. I haven't seen that yet. Yeah, so.
Your worship, could I ask that the recommendation to remove the resolution around the fees and charges remain, simply because council hasn't yet reviewed its fees and charges for 2023-24. It's amended and agreed on 2 amendments, I think, as part of that document, but I don't think that the council has yet had an opportunity to review its total fees and charges.
Through you, your worship, so you won't be having an opportunity to review the fees and charges for 23-24. We've published an annual plan. We've got a long-term plan where we consulted on some fees and charges, brought the others to council. The next stage of a review of fees and charges happens as part of a long-term plan, which would take effect from the 1st of July next year. So the fees and charges we've got this year, aside from the couple of tweaks, and please shake your head if I've got this wrong, team, because I wasn't at the last meeting, obviously, but I understand there were a couple of changes made at the last time, and then my subsequent email to council said, here's a kind of process around how we will be reviewing the fees and charges for the long-term plan. So, and you were comfortable with that? There's kind of 21 pages of fees and charges. We look at the ones that we really want to focus on. Loved your feedback around, let's pull out the ones that are set by legislation so that we don't focus on them. And then we will come back to you and let's kind of pick the ones that we really want to focus on, involve the boards and ones that are relevant to them, and go from there. So that was the process that I kind of outlined in that email. Right.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Personally, I'm just disappointed with that process because I don't believe that there are some fees and charges in our current document which I think needed to be looked at. But if they're now locked in for another 12 months, so be it.
Fees and charges can be looked at any time.
Okay,
So it would just be helpful to me and my team if you could maybe be more specific and we get agreement around the table so that we don't spend work, kind of work on it now when we're probably going to come back later this year, early next year with the full